Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Smartchain Open Multi-stakeholder workshop. We are very proud that we already received so many excellent results in this project. That's really great, and we are very proud about it. Unfortunately, we could not meet during the second part of the project. This was very, very pity. I missed to meet you all, to have nice chats during the coffee breaks and good dinners with wine and continuous talks about this project and new activities. But it is like it is. And I thank you all for your kind activity, for all your patience, for your engagement during this difficult time. We had so many telcos, and workshops, and sometimes it was quite hard, to discuss all the relevant topics from Smartchain, but we succeeded and we did a very good job. So a great thanks to all the consortium, and especially to my team, to Javier and Caspar, and not to forget our, how can I say, the father of the project, Dimitrios. So thank you for this great activity. I enjoyed the time with you. Smartchain is still running for almost 2 more months, but because the time of summer vacation is ahead of us, this week was the last opportunity to organize this Smartchain conference. So we still have 2 more months to go, and there are still things which we will do. And at the end of this conference, we will present our new booklet. That's also a great achievement of Smartchain. And during the next few weeks, it's now in English, it will be translated into 8 European languages. So it's a good tool to reach many people, stakeholders all over Europe. I'm very happy that Natalia Precina from DG Agri and Ivana Oggiano from the European Research Executive Agency are joining us today and will give us a presentation. So I wish us all a very fruitful workshop, but before we start, I have to announce some housekeeping issues. So please mute your micros and turn off your camera if you're not talking. And to organize things in a time frame, it would be nice if you could ask your questions or add comments through the chat function. So after each block, we will answer those questions. And as a general information, we will record this whole workshop. So to look at it at a later stage, and maybe some people who are on vacation who can also look at the results of Smartchain. So we will start now with the official part of the workshop, and our first speaker will be Natalia Precina from DG Agri. So please, Natalia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. I would like to share my slides, but host disabled participants shared screening, so maybe if you could enable.
You can try now.
Okay. Yes, it works. So I will share. Do you see my presentation? I will put it in the presentation mode. Okay. Do you see this?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, great. So once again, welcome to the workshop, and it's really my pleasure today that I have been invited. So thank you very much for the invitation. I've been following the project throughout the 3 years, basically in the background as a policy officer, and today I have the great honor to present to you the EU policy, so a little bit of a background how Smartchain actually emerged, and the RNI on sustainable food value chains, My name is Natalia Brzezina, and I work in the Research and Innovation Unit of DG Agri. So starting, as you know, probably that the European Commission has put forward a very ambitious agenda regarding the sustainability with the European Green Deal, where several, oops, I don't know whether this is now occurring on your, it's all okay? Or
yes.
you, okay.
Yes.
So with, okay, so as you know, the European Commission has put forward a very ambitious agenda regarding sustainability with the European Green Deal, where there are several objectives and targets to be reached in the next decades, but the European Green Deal proposes also a lot of ambitious actions and tools actually to reach these objectives. And among them, there is the Farm to Fork strategy for fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly food system, which is actually at the heart of the European Green Deal. The European Commission also has recently adopted on the 30th of June, so it's really like fresh news for you, a new communication. It's a vision for rural areas, which actually envisions the future for rural areas as being more stronger, connected, resilient, and prosperous by 2040. And of course, we have also the Common Agriculture Policy, the new Common Agriculture Policy upcoming soon, with the 9 objectives along all the 3 dimensions of sustainability. And that also relate to food chains. So, for example, the rebalancing power in the food chain, or responding to citizens' concerns in terms of food and health quality. So innovation in agri-food chains is actually key to achieve the objectives of all the strategies and the policies and progress towards sustainability. So in 2016, DG Agri has developed together with a lot of stakeholders a strategic approach to EU agriculture research and innovation. And in this approach, actually, we have several key R&I priorities, and among them there is a priority, new openings for rural growth. And within this priority, we have recognized that innovative agri-food chain is actually very important and key. And from this priority emerged the call research, the Research Innovation Action, SFS 33 2017, so it was in 2016, Innovative Agri-Food Chains, Unlocking the Potential for Competitiveness and Sustainability. And out of this call, in a really, let's say, high competition, we have selected Smartchain. So Smartchain, let's say, was born in 2017-18, started basically out of this call. And today is actually the day for Smartchain to share with us the results that will definitely feed into the different strategies and policies that I introduced, to the Farm to Fork strategy, the vision for rural areas, and of course the CAP. But it is not only today. We were also following throughout the Smartchain project the different results, and of course they are part of the strategy. But as a follow-up, basically, of the Smartchain project, I would say, like, of the call, the Research and Innovation Action, in which we wanted to look at the innovative agri-food value chains. There is another call. There was another call in 2020. It's an innovation action this time, and it's innovative agri-food chains, boosting sustainability-oriented competitiveness. Out of this call, 3 follow-up projects were selected. The Fairchain project, that is actually looking at innovative technological, organizational, and social solutions for fairer dairy and fruit and vegetable value chains. There is also the CoFresh project that is looking at sustainable and competitive fruits and vegetable value chains in Europe. And then there is also Plotos that is looking at data-driven sustainable agri-food value chains. There was also a coordination and support action on connecting consumers and producers in innovative agri-food supply chains. And this coordination and support action resulted also in 3 projects in the agro bridges, that is building bridges between consumers and producers by supporting short food supply chains through a systemic, holistic, multi-actor approach. Then there is also the coach that is looking at collaborative agri-food chains and driving innovation in the territorial food systems and improving outcomes for producers and consumers. And there is Cocoredo, that is a project that is connecting consumers and producers to rebalance actually the farmer position through ambassador trainings. And on top of that, there are also other projects that are looking at different aspects in the food value chains. Like, for example, we have Schelvi and Fox that are looking at minimal processing of fruits and vegetables, and that also are developing new business models involving farmers and new, let's say, value chains. There was actually just ended project Strength to Food that was looking at short food supply chains, at food quality schemes and the public procurement and their sustainability. And there is also the Value Mix project that is looking more on the food system dynamics. And of course, we had also thematic network scheme, which is a different kind of project because it is not researching or developing new innovation, but rather collecting all the knowledge that is developed in the different projects and preparing materials to actually share this widely on the ground with the practitioners. So this is only, like, let's say, a selection that I provide to you of the projects that work on sustainable agri-food value chains, but I invite you also to have a look into our fact sheet that is entitled Sustainable, Circular and Innovative Value Chains, in which you can find basically a more comprehensive overview of the different projects that are running. But of course, we are not stopping here with implementation of our strategy. We are now in the phase of launching Horizon Europe Work Programme 2021-2022. It was adopted on the 15th of June and published just the day after, on the 16th of June. And there are, I think, quite interesting topics and call for actions that might interest also the community that is today present at the conference. So of course, I only selected 3, but yeah, please have a look also in the work program as a whole, because there are really a lot of abundance of really nice, let's say, calls for actions and to submit the proposals. So the 3 ones that I would like to highlight is the call in governance 0127 that is aiming at developing EU advisory networks on consumer and producer chains that will actually take all the knowledge that is produced in the project that I have showed to you and build the advisory networks, which will allow basically to share the knowledge with the farmers in the different member states. Then there is uncovering lock-ins and levers to encourage farmers to move to and stay in sustainable, climate neutral, biodiversity-friendly farming systems, from experiments to systemic mechanisms. And this call is actually, let's say, having in the title the farmers, but what we look there for is that basically we look also on the whole food system in which the farmers operate and what are the relations there that can help them to transition to sustainable farming systems. And there is also the call on the EU approach to assess and internalize positive and negative externalities of food for incentivizing sustainable choices that I think will be also of interest for you. So as I said, please have a look at the freshly published work program, and I am looking forward to listen to the results of Smartchain project today. And yes, I think that I have to say big congratulations on the project from my side, and I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you very much.
Much, Natalia, for an excellent and very interesting presentation. I'm happy that we and some other partners are already involved in some ongoing projects you just mentioned. And we're also looking forward and thinking about new activities in the calls you just mentioned, because it's such a pleasure to collaborate with this excellent consortium, and we are looking forward to work again together and also to have the possibilities to talk to you and exchange ideas. Thank you very much, Natalia. So our next speaker is Ivana Oggiano from RIA, and she will speak about overall monitoring of Smartchain implementation. So please, Ivana, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I will try to share. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Works smoothly. Trying to put it in.
Yes.
Yes, is it okay
perfect.
now?
Now it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so good morning, and thanks also from my side for inviting me to speak, to deliver a short presentation at this important meeting, this final project meeting. I'm Ivana Oggiano, the project officer for following and monitoring the implementation of Smartchain, and hopefully supporting also in this task. Since April 2020. So I joined the European Research and Executive Agency in April 2020, just a little bit before the first periodic review for Smartchain, which was actually my first experience in this type of tasks. So I'm particularly attached to this project and happy to be here as well. I work for, as I said, the Research Executive Agency of the European Commission in the unit B2, dealing with farm to fork, communities development, and climate action. I'm also, just to link, to make a link with Natalia's presentation, I'm also in charge of monitoring the implementation of the projects that represent a follow-up of Smartchain, so the innovation actions actually, so Fairchain, Plutus, and CoFresh in particular. And I join and I share Susanne's feeling that it's really a pity that we were not able to meet and greet in person, as I had experienced very fruitful and smooth cooperation with the management of the project. My contact person is Javier, and I have to say that we had a perfect exchange in this 1 year and more that I'm following the project. So today I will give a short overview of the implementation so far, of the achievements, and of the next steps. And this is the outline of the presentation. So main highlights, Natalia already introduced this, the call, sustainable food security, resilient and resource efficient value chains, under which Smartchain was funded, with the topic of innovative agri-food chains and a focus on competitiveness and sustainability. The grant was signed in April 2018. The project started in September, and it's a 36 months project. The type of action is a research and innovative action, meaning that it is expected to establish new knowledge or to explore innovative solutions. The policy framework is provided by DG Agri, and Natalia is your policy officer, and I'm the project officer from the Research and Executive Agency, which dealt both with evaluation of the proposals under this call and with the monitoring of the implementation and the signature of the grant agreement and so on. Main highlights during implementation, we had 2 amendments for the removal of 2 beneficiaries and the addition of 2 new ones. Otherwise, overall, the action reflected what was established in the description of action in the framework of the grant agreement. So there were no big deviations, no big changes. The achievements, I'm very happy to share part of the outcome of the first periodic review. So we have assessed the implementation of a Smartchain after 18 months. So the first reporting period, which ended, if I'm not wrong, in March 2020. We have been supported by external experts in doing so. And we had a review meeting on the 8th of June of 2020, last year. And the outcome of what the experts said about Smartchain is, as you can read, that the project has fully achieved the objectives and milestones. This is referred, of course, to the first 18 months of implementation. We will see what we will have for this second and last reporting period. With significant immediate or potential impact, has delivered exceptional results with significant immediate or potential impact, has met the specific objectives for the reporting period. There were not substantial delays. The deliverables are of very high quality. The platform and the web page are active and with high quality content. The scientific results have been shared at relevant high-profile conferences. And also expectation for long-term impact, which could be significant, especially on practitioners, if the dissemination will fulfill all the foreseen activities. The identification of bottlenecks has provided many important insights for the future work on innovations. The project has already resulted in an impressive inventory of innovations and initiative of value for the promotion and progress of short food supply chains. And business canvas models have been constructed for the case studies. So this is just an extract of the periodic review report of the previous reporting period. And I'm happy to share and to read this outcome, this assessment from experts in the field, actually, because I think it's particularly for you particularly nice to hear it at the end of the project. The next steps, this is a bit of administration. So we had the monitoring of the implementation was split in two reporting periods. One, I just mentioned the outcome, and the second and last one will end on the 31st of August, the official end date of the project. From that date on, the consortium will have 60 days to submit the reporting package with the technical annex and financial one. And we will organize again a review, thorough review, with the support of external experts. From our side, from the REA side, we will have 90 days after the submission of the report to provide the outcome of the assessment and proceed to the final payment for the project. Actually, these 90 days are suspended very frequently and could be more than once for giving the opportunity to the consortium to provide clarifications and additional information that will complete the reporting package. We will have again a review meeting tentatively in December or January. We still need to discuss the date and the practicalities. So this is just the overview of the iteration, several iterations that you can have in the framework of the reporting and payment cycle. And what is particularly interesting, in my view, is post-project follow-up, especially focusing on communication, dissemination, and exploitation. So the final review at the end of the project will be particularly attentive, will assess in a particularly thorough way whether the project has implemented the requirements provided in the grant agreement concerning communication, dissemination, and exploitation of project results. And here I took a sentence from the from the project communication and dissemination plan, where one of the objectives is to ensure that the results of the project are clearly and consistently communicated to the relevant stakeholders during the project and after it has been completed. And this is linked to the obligations that we have included in the grant agreement, these 3 articles, 38, 29, and 28, which deals with the communication obligation, dissemination, and exploitation obligation, and including several aspects such as open access, for instance. So the key concept in all communication, dissemination, and exploitation activities is project results. Here I took another paragraph from the communication and dissemination plan. The central objective of Smartchain is to foster and accelerate the shift towards collaborative short food supply chains, and through specific actions and recommendations to introduce new robust business models and innovative practical solutions that enhance the competitiveness and sustainability of the European agri-food system. Now, among what the all possible project results that one project can deliver, I have put in red those that I think are most relevant for Smartchain, such as policy recommendations, reports, platforms, collaboration, education materials, publication, and data. So we will have to monitor and to see whether these results that the project has produced, there can be others that I have not highlighted, are communicated, disseminated, and exploited as foreseen in the grant agreement. And we can support you in doing so even after the lifespan of the project. Through some specific tools. So for instance, the Horizon Results platform, which is a free online advertising space to facilitate and promote the uptake of results. So the project will identify key exploitable results that have been selected and that have been prioritized and can upload these results in this platform. Which is useful to connect beneficiaries of the project with potential users of the results. You can upload multiple results, and visitors of the platform can search according to their needs and interests. Now, the exploitation obligation and the use of the Horizon Results platform is even strengthened in the new framework program in Horizon Europe, because if no exploitation of results takes place within 1 year after the end of the project, it will be mandatory to use this tool. This is what I just mentioned. Then we have also the Horizon Result Platform TV that you can use as a source of information and useful knowledge on how to exploit, on how to better and best exploit your results. We have the social media channels of the European Commission that are there for you to share your success stories. And with Smartchain, we already had like some tweets on an animated video that was produced, I think, at the end of last year. So you have the usual Twitter, Facebook, the Horizon magazine, and so on and so forth that are available for you to communicate your results. We have, as you know, this is Smartchain is a multi-actor project. So it has an obligation to submit the so-called practice abstracts that are directly aimed at providing knowledge to practitioners, to farmers, or to supply chain actors, on with a very practical angle, informing about innovative solutions and things that have been working for others to get a source of inspiration. Smartchain has already submitted the first batch of practice abstract, and this second reporting period will submit the second batch. This is a platform hosted by EIP Agri. Then we have also, and this is my final slide, I think, the Open Research Europe, which is a repository for scientific publications, which has no cost, provides an open peer review, and can host the publications of EU-funded projects. And there are, of course, some requirements. The publication needs to be original in English and not to be considered for peer review in by other sources. That was my last slide. Thank you. And I'm, of course, available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ivana, for your very nice presentation. We are very proud about the very positive comments towards Smartchain. Thank you very much for it. And also thank you for the information related to dissemination, communication, and exploitation. We already did quite some activities within Smartchain, and we are promising during the coming weeks, we will continue to do our best to, to do a very good job in this aspect.
8h15.
Only the speaker should have the microphone on, please, to avoid this background sound. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker will be now Javier. He will give you an overview about the Smartchain project. So please, Javier.
Can you see my presentation without any problem?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So, as you all know, the main objective of the Smartchain project is to support a collaborative share for supply chain through a specific recommendation and action, introducing new business model and also innovative practical solution to increase the competitiveness and sustainability of the European agri-food system. The project is a 3-year Horizon 2020 project coordinated by the University of Guggenheim in Germany. As you know, our project is following the multi-actor approach. You can see here our big consortium with 43 partners from 9 European and 2 associated countries. As you can see, we have a research institution, we have technology transfer center, we have non-profit organization covering different types of stakeholders like consumer, farmer, the food industry in general. And in the middle, we have our 18 shore for supply chain. They are a key partner, official partner in the project, representative shore for supply chain as a case studies from 9 different countries, including all kind of type of shore for supply chain initiative and different type of food product. At the beginning of the project, we established 9 different innovation and collaborative hubs in these 9 countries. In each hub, we have 1 hub manager, we have different national partners, and we have 2 shore for supply chain or case studies. The main objective of this hub was to facilitate the data acquisition, extract the first-hand information from our shore for supply chain. It was done using tool, methodology, and interview prepared for our research partner. So the hub, they were in some way linking pin between our shore for supply chain and our researchers. Also, they ensure the communication and the information flow between all the hubs. Additionally, they organize several national workshops, and they ensure the promotion at national level of the project and also the dissemination of the results. Here you can see the general workflow. In the middle, we have our 18 shore for supply chain, and the project started with a multi-perspective analysis of our shore for supply chain or case studies from different perspectives. We have a technological and not technological innovation, social innovation, the perception of the consumer, sustainability assessment, this including the environmental, social, and economic impact of the short food supply chain, also from the business perspective, and also we analyze the regulatory context of this short food supply chain. This massive data collected at the beginning of the project, it was a starting point for further analysis and studies in the different work packages. Here you can see our first official consortium picture. This was in the kickoff meeting in Germany at the University of Guggenheim. We were all really happy because we couldn't imagine that just in the middle of the project we will be facing a global pandemic. For sure, the COVID affected our personal and professional life and also the project, but I'm happy to say that thanks to the hard work of the whole consortium and the dedication, we will be able to complete the project without no big deviation. So thank you very much. One issue regarding to the work with the short food supply chain is there is no legal agreed definition. You can find from different sources, also from the Commission, different kind of definition. In some cases, between the consumer and the farmer and the consumer, there is no intermediary. In some other cases, only one. So we agree in the project to create an inclusive working definition. This is only a tool that we use within the project. For Smartchain, short food supply chain are cooperative systems that include very few intermediaries, increasing sustainability, transparency, social relations, and fairer prices for farmer and consumer. Such supply chain usually involve local producers working together to promote local food, which in many cases only travel a short distance, so farmer and consumer can communicate with each other. During the 3 years of the project, we implemented several tasks and activities. Later on, all the work package leader and expert from the project, they are going to present these activities, also the result and the recommendations. So I'm going to show you some general impression mainly related to the communication and dissemination. Here you can see some picture of the project. Most of them are from pre-COVID area. This is some kind of focus group, annual meeting, a community of practice, and so on. During the project, we were able to implement more than 45 internal meetings with our short food supply chain, 12 different community of practice to validate the social innovation knowledge generated by the project. 9 different expert focus group. In this focus group, we discussed several topics to have some input from experts from the consortium, but also external one for the developing of the policy recommendation of the project. We also implement 8 different consumer focus group, rural versus or urban, in Spain, Hungary, Greece, and Germany. And exactly in the same 4 countries, we implemented a huge online consumer survey with more than 2,000 participants. Regarding communication and dissemination, Copa Cogeca is our work packet leader and with the big support of UFIC. The project had already carried out 18 different multi-actor workshops. Each hub manager carried out 2 different multi-actor workshops at the national level, for sure, national language, to present the funding and result of the project to food producer and short food supply chain practitioner and other stakeholders. We have 2 rounds. The first round, it was last year. It was an internal one, only for farmers and practitioners related to our 18 case studies. And this year, we implemented a second round, an open one, inviting all kinds of farmer, food producer, and different type of stakeholders. In total, we have more than 450 participants. As you can see, most of the workshop were online due to the COVID situation, but this year we have only 1 physical. And here you can see some picture. It was organized for our Hungarian hub, KISS. It was in the frame of the first Innovation Short Food Supply Chain Expo in Hungary. And as you can see, it was a really successful workshop with a big number of participants. And in parallel, it was also in the expo, it was a short food supply chain exhibition. During the project, we prepared different kind of dissemination material with most of the result of the project, always keeping in mind that our target group are the farmer and short food supply chain practitioners. So Most of our material is written in a really easy and understandable way. You can see here some infographics, some recommendation sheet, some one-pager. We have also a YouTube channel with several videos, many from our Hungarian hub, showing different examples of shared food supply chain in Hungary, also from Greek. And we are really proud of our animation video coordinated by UFIC, where we are showing the main difference between the shared food supply chain and non-supply chain to a general public, and also the benefit of the shared food supply chain. Newsletter, UFIC prepared 6 issues with some general information about the project, but also related to events and external information dealing with the shared food supply chain. We are almost finished with one special Smartchain special issue in the International Journal of Food Studies, including 10 different papers based on the result of the project, but also we prepared several popular articles in different language where we are promoting the shared food supply chain and the result of the project in different websites and also in magazines. As already was commented, we also implementing at the moment 17 practice abstracts. They are already available in the AP Agri project database, and by next month, at the end of the project, we will submit a second batch, reaching a minimum of 30 different practice abstracts. We have in this time the possibility to present the result and funding of the project, most of the cases online. Here you can see some example. For example, I think 3 weeks ago, something like that, we received an invitation from the Commission to present the result of the online consumer survey in the frame of the 2021 Agricultural Outlook Spring Workshop. And Verena from the University Guggenheim, she gave a presentation with this result. For example, also in the Forum Origin Diversity and Territories Forum last year, we organized a shared food supply chain session in collaboration with our friend project Strength to Food. Here you can see also some other example of this. For example, the networking activities. We participate also in the final conference of the Strength to Food project. And Susanne has already talked about this booklet. We are really proud of this insight and recommendation to support collaborative shared food supply chain. This is a digital document presenting a kind of summary of the main applicable result and recommendation for farmer and other shared food supply chain practitioners. It was a challenge, especially for the work packet leader, to condense in 2 or 3 pages the main result of the 3 years of work. But yeah, I think the result is quite nice. I need to thank Julia from UFI for the coordination of this work. Today we are launching the English version, but also thank you to the partner that they support the translation in 8 additional languages, and within July probably we will be able to launch the 9 different booklets. This will be included in our website, in the innovation platform, and also in the social media. Talking about the social media, we have the Twitter account. It was really active with 820 followers. Also, we had LinkedIn account for the project, and especially I would like to highlight the second LinkedIn account. This is a Shared Food Chain EU community. It was created by the Smartchain project, but now we are in the monitoring this group, also in collaboration with the Strength to Food project. And here, all the farmer, all the researcher, or the practitioner, and so on, or people interested in the shared food supply chain, they can join the group. They can share best practices, information, event, etc. So I invite you, all of you, to join this group. The project has 2 websites. We have the project website with the general information about the project, the concept, the partner, and so on. But we have a second one. This is the innovation platform. We are also really proud of this platform created by our colleague from ISECI. I'm going to briefly present because later on, Catherine, I think from ISECI, she's going to give a presentation on this platform. Here we have several databases. One of the most important is this innovation inventory, where we have around 150 innovative solutions, technical solutions, marketing solutions, social solutions, etc., answering the identified needs and problems from the shared food supply chain. We have also one resource section with publication. Here you can find all the one-pager publication, dissemination material, article, and also the public deliverable of the project. In the training section, we have all the presentation used by the hub manager in the implementation of the national multi-actor workshop. So they are all the presentation with the result for the different work packet in 9 different languages. And also we have one e-learning course, but it will be later on presented by Catherine. I'm happy to report that after the end of the project, this will be the 31st of August, 5 ongoing projects, Smartchain, CoFresh, Bluetooth, Fodaras, and Low Food, they are going to continue using the innovation platform. It will be with a different name. It will be not only focused in short food supply chain, but in general, innovative value chain. So in some way, we can ensure the sustainability of the Smartchain legacy. Regarding networking and cooperation, during these 3 years, we have the opportunity to work and collaborate with several organizations, initiatives, another Horizon 2020 project. I would like to highlight, I already explained a couple of times in the presentation, our really successful collaboration with the Strength to Food project. I think Barbara, the project manager, is also joining the event today. We prepared several dissemination material, one infographic, a couple of articles, and they also support us with material for our e-learning course. So I think it was a really good example of collaboration between 2 Horizon 2020 projects. And to finalize, even when we are almost finished with the project, I would like to invite you to be involved in the Smartchain, with the registration in the innovation platform, as I said before. And the platform will be live still several years. Hopefully, after the end of these 5 ongoing projects, we will be able to have new successful proposal, and we will be able to continue with the use of this platform, and also to join the short food chain EU community. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Javier, for this excellent presentation. It's quite impressive what we achieved during the project, and my special thanks goes to Javier. His engagement, his enthusiasm for the project, and he was almost working day and night, 24 hours every day of the week. So really a great job. Thank you, Javier.
Thank you very much. It was awarding, again, the whole consortium. We are really happy. Especially, we have to think the complicated circumstances with the COVID situation, and the whole consortium was really dedicated and engaged with the project. So thank you very much again.
So now we are coming to the Smartchain main results and recommendations, the first part. And our first speaker will be Andras, and he will talk about tech and non-tech innovations within Smartchain. Andras, please, the floor is yours.
Yes.
Share.
Nem tudom, segítsen. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you please, Andras, put it in the presentation mode?
Just I try. Oh.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to present you the results on the application of technological and non-technological innovations. The general objective was to identify the appropriate technological and non-technological innovations for improving the performance of the short food supply chains, and to identify and characterize their applicability. We implemented this job in 4 tasks. First, we defined the method. In the second task, we collected and described a range of technological and non-technological innovations, 146 in total. After then, we identified the factors which are the basis how to choose the appropriate ones for a specific case. And at the end, we carried out a screening and pre-selection of the technological and non-technological innovations for financial and practical applicability. One of the main results is that we developed a recommended method to improve the performance and competitiveness of the short food supply chains, which is summarized in 6 basic steps. First, identify your current value proposition. Secondly, analyze your situation potentially by a SWOT analysis and identify your success factors and bottlenecks, and I will come back to this later in more details. Identify the applicable innovations using the inventory, and of course in inventory in the project, but any other source of innovative ideas. Define the necessary activities, tools, and methods to implement these innovations. Upgrade your value propositions and create added value, and identify your strategies and prepare an action plan. One of the key steps in this procedure is that the short food supply chains have to define very clearly their value propositions, and we made a proposition of a range of general value propositions, what they can use as a starting point for developing their own specific ones. In the bottom of the value propositions, we show some of the basic motivating factors of the innovations based on a huge survey of the food industry research and innovation needs, what we carry out at Camden every 3 years with more than 2,600 organizations. So these are the typical categories. The first one is fresh, tasty, natural, specific, high quality niche products produced and processed in a responsible way and traditional. The second one is genuine, authentic, non-manipulated, protected with particular care from chemical and other contaminations associated with the global food supply, organic, transparent, not adulterated. The third one is fresh, high nutritional value, natural. The fourth one has 2 elements, both related to sustainability, resilience, and food security. One of them is based on less transport and distribution, local supply, less greenhouse emissions, social responsibility, employing underprivileged disabled people. And the other one is local, supporting the local community and long-term viability. The next one is a potential place to learn about the food production, about nature, a place to educate children through playing, and specific diet trends from local plant-based food production like vegan and vegetarian and others. So these are only general recommendations. Of course, the individual value propositions can be far more wider. The main issue is one of the lessons what we learned and which was presented by the work, that in many cases short food supply chains try to compete on prices with the conventional ones, and this is not the recommended way. The recommended way is to differentiate themselves and to offer value for money and not to go into the price competition, and these value propositions can help to identify how to define their own specific profile. I'd like to explain very briefly what are the success factors and the bottlenecks in our interpretation. Success factors are those factors which support the exploitation of an opportunity to improve the performance of the short food supply chain based on the combination of the strengths and the opportunities, or eliminate or reduce the threat that can decrease or spoil the performance of the short supply chain. So the combination of a strengths and the threat, and success factors can be enhanced by the application of an innovation. So this is the key element of this. The bottlenecks are those which can hamper the exploitation of an opportunity to improve the performance of a short food supply chain, so which is a combination of a weakness and an opportunity, or which can increase the impact of a threat that will reduce and spoil the performance of a short food supply chain, which is the combination of a weakness and a threat. So bottlenecks can be eliminated or reduced by innovation. So we defined in collaboration with the 18 case studies some typical success factors, and these were categorized for individual steps of the short chain and for the short chain as a whole, like for the individual steps, high quality local product, and for the whole chain, authentic local traditional and quality products, or fresh and natural products, and the pair is organic products, sustainable production and animal welfare, sustainable production for the whole chain, authenticity, traditionality, promoting healthy and sustainable eating habits and diets, diverse selling points, accessibility, and low transportation costs, and common marketing measures and presence in events. These are just an examples, but what is important, these are usually those typical approaches which used to result in a very successful operation, how the short chains can differentiate themselves. Some of the typical problems and needs of the short chains, what we identified: the limited and unpredictable volumes, high uncertainty, and high cost of meeting retailers' requirements, perishability of some fruits, vegetables, meats, dairy products, limited infrastructure, including IT, technical, and financial resources, limited availability of the labor force, particularly the skilled human resources, high cost of logistics per product unit, and lack of the efficient cold chain, and poor direct access or links to the consumers, low negotiating power with retailers, relatively high price and low adaptability to price competition, lack of information, professional staff and knowledge of product development skills and new advanced technologies, marketing and awareness of public funding, and lack of understanding and compliance with the legal requirements, and lack of collaboration with peers and other short food chain members, lack of experience to collaborate on shared use of resources, agreeing joint goals and mutual benefits. So we defined a range of technological and non-technological innovations, or collected this, which can be used by the short chains. Roughly 1/3 of the innovations were collected from the short food chains, but the other important message is that many other innovations which are used in the conventional large or long food chains can be adapted for local application or small scale application. Just some extra thinking and additional considerations have to be applied. So this is a list how we categorized the different types of innovations. One innovative solution can belong to different categories. So this provides an overview of the previous categories, which shows that in all of the 9 categories, ranging from primary production through food safety and food quality, food preservation, logistics, integrity, traceability, transparency, marketing, structural and economic aspects, and modern information communication technologies, we identified a range of innovations. The largest number of innovations were related to the logistics, and also we identified that about 1/3 of the innovations are more than 1/3 are digital solutions. So the application of the digital solutions provides a new opportunity. These innovations were collected specifically to eliminate the weaknesses of the short chain, or to help the short chains to exploit their strengths and opportunities. The innovations, or a large number of the innovations, was analyzed for applicability, like technological feasibility, financial feasibility, organizational aspects, social suitability, and practical applicability. We at least more than 90 innovations were screened with this methodology, and what we established that for each case, it's a specific adjustment what is necessary to implement some of the innovations and to identify whether they are applicable or not. But which is a good news, that with the 18 case studies, more than 2/3 of the tested innovations, so more than 60 were stated by the case studies that they could use them, and this means that the rest of them can be applied by others who were not involved in this study. One of the important good practices is that the consumer trust has to be improved. So clear, understandable messages should be provided by these short food chains to the consumers, particularly by the time of the COVID pandemic. The message on genuine, authentic, non-manipulated, protected with particle air clear from local supply chain became a very powerful message compared to global sourcing, which has generated an image of higher health risks compared to the local food. And we identified a range of good practices like common marketing, exploiting and combining fragmented and complementary resources to achieve strategic objectives, operating a uniform quality assurance system, close communication with members, solidarity when participation of producers and consumers share economic responsibility, employment of disabled and handicapped people, education and shared learning, fair income for farmers, and so on. So actually we are working now on converting these findings into policy recommendations in another part of the project, because we think the techniques are there. They need public support and industry support or business support to get them implemented. Also, we developed a tool for redesigning the short food chains to reduce the risk of the coronavirus, the potential of coronavirus infection of the consumers, which is based on a simplified risk assessment, where we extended the method what we usually use for food safety evaluations, but here we added a specific step on assessing the vulnerability of the protection of the consumer during purchasing against the ingress of the virus to the human body. So the conclusions are that the main results: we developed a method for identifying the opportunities to improve the competitiveness and efficiency of a short food chain by application technological and non-technological innovations and selecting the suitable innovations for this. So this will help short chains to analyze their situation, identify which are the potential areas where an innovation can help and how to select and implement these innovations. The method was verified by the 18 case studies, and individual chain members and the chain as a whole can apply. We produced an inventory which contains 146 technological and non-technological innovations which will survive after the end of the project. We identified some typical bottlenecks and success factors for short food chains, which can be a starting point for a specific short chain to identify its own bottlenecks and success factors. We produced a range of general value propositions, which can be used as a starting point for developing the own value proposition, and with the help of this, the current value propositions can be upgraded through the application of innovations, new tools and methods. And by the use of the method, what we developed, the upgraded value propositions can be developed, and most innovations are applicable by the 18 case studies of the Smartchain, with which adjustments. The key prerequisites are knowledge and skills. There is a need for a solution of handling the lack of the financial resources. The social suitability forms a part of the assessment of the applicability, and some of the proposed recommended innovations are already applied by the case studies. These are the partners who participated in the work for whom I'd like to thank for the very good and successful collaboration, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Andras, for this excellent presentation. It's really impressive what kind of results you achieved already. And my special thanks goes to you and all people involved in this work package. You did a great job. We will continue with 2 other presentations, and you can ask your questions in the chat, and we will come back to the questions before the coffee break. So now the second speaker is Eugenia, and she will talk about social innovation. So Eugenia, please, the floor is yours.
Hello everybody. Good morning to everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
I have a small problem with my video, but I think I will sort it out. Yes.
Now we can see you.
Yes. All right. Good morning again. So this presentation concerns social innovation in short food supply chains. The leader of this work package is the University of Crete, but of course other participants, other partners were involved in this work package, such as the Mediterranean Agronomic Institute of Bari, which is based in Italy, the University of Bologna, Sitoliva, which is a non-profit organization, Legacoup Puglia, which is again a non-profit organization, KISS, which is an association of small farmers based in Hungary, and AMPED, a case study, which is based in the Netherlands. So, before I start the presentation of this work package, I would like to start with a thank you message to all members, partners, colleagues, and last but not least, to the coordinators of Smartchain project for their cooperation and continuous support. Many thanks for that. Work package 3, which is about social innovation, gave to the Smartchain project, in my humble opinion, various means, technological tools, both quantitative and qualitative, and strategies to explore what social innovation is, what does it mean for short food supply chains, and why this concept is crucial for the economic and mostly the social development of short food supply in the European agri-food system. So these means, methodological tools and strategies go hand in hand, not only with the true nature of social innovation, but also have been expressed in real and preconditions by enhancing the cooperation, valorization, and fertilization process among most partners and members of Smartchain project and other stakeholders' real involvement. So the outcome of all these co-creation processes results in an output panorama, as you can see here, which is expressed through the different deliverables submitted within work package 3. So for example, deliverable 3.1 was about offering an operational definition of short food supply, of social innovation in short food supply chains. Deliverable 3.2 concerned two critical aspects of social innovation in short food supply chains, namely the drivers of actors' engagement and best practices for designing and implementing successful social innovation, of which material has been used by other work packages as well. Deliverable 3.3 attempted to discuss and validate the outcomes of the work done on the first two objectives with multiple short food supply actors through the implementation of the community of practice technique. Now deliverables 3.4 and 5 focus on the creation of a social innovation template through the utilization of online questionnaires applied to the 18 case studies. Deliverable 3.6, you might be wondering why you cannot see these deliverables. Well, there was a lack of space to include them in this slide, but I reassure you, and I think that the coordinators as well can reassure you, that these deliverables have been delivered, of course, and submitted properly. So deliverable 3.6 used qualitative tools and try to identify the true vision, mission, objectives of stakeholders in short food supply chains. And finally, deliverable 3.7 focused on the creation of a toolkit, which toolkit is about fostering social innovation. Also, as you can see, we have produced some infographics on which are the factors on fostering social innovations in short food supply chains. We contributed partly to the innovation inventory and produced a small video with a representative of the case study on the effects that the pandemic had on the food supply chain. So these things are much more well explored in this work package in a co-creative, we can say, manner. So what have we learned so far in this work package? Well, one of the main arguments here is that social innovation is a process and not a product. So social innovation is a process that changes the way short food supply chain stakeholders relate and act, and brings solutions to pressing needs that benefit all short food supply actors or members. Of course, not all problems can be addressed by the implementation of social innovation. But it is, however, important to understand that social innovations involve transforming participatory processes that lead to new capabilities and cannot be merely narrowed down to categories. So what we did here is to describe the drivers, and the step-by-step processes that enhance social innovativeness in short food supply chains. And we started so by trying to develop a definition, an operational definition for short food supply chains. Through extensive literature review and desk research, we came to the conclusion that short food supply chains are perceived as live and complex social living systems. So according to this system-centered definition of social innovations, we can say that social innovations are processes that change short food supply chain systems by altering the collective perspective of the actors involved and their corresponding action mode, thus leading to the achievement of primarily social goals that benefit, of course, all short food supply chain participants in sustainable ways. So the next task that we had to accomplish in terms of this workshop was, this work package, was to identify which are the forces, which are the key drivers of social innovation in short food supply chain. In general, as you probably know, social innovation is about change. It also is about actors realizing that they can co-shape their future and make a social impact. So the drivers that matter for a successful social innovation process in short food supply chains are those that ensure actor engagement in a co-development process. But the validation process in the form of 12 community of practices that were held in 9 countries acknowledged and something else, that what is also important is the value of building strong relationships through communication and the merits of relying on cooperation rather than competition within short food supply chain actors. And why this new technology, why social innovation is needed? Well, social innovation is a process, a specific type of action that actually forces people that are involved in short food supply chains to change and therefore make a social impact and enhance society capacity to act and change. This type of action shares the following 5 characteristics: the connection of a core group structure that includes different stakeholders from different levels, connecting learning with doing. It is well known that experiential learning is the fastest and best way to learn something new. So instead of lecturing about what is needed, we can start by co-creating something new together with interested stakeholders. The third characteristic is to create parallel supporting structure, which is very vital for any social innovation. And this supporting structure could be a group of peers or a small group of initiators in the early stages that provide feedback, allows participants to reflect on what they have accomplished and share experiences. And the 4 characteristic is to create a set of shared purpose, vision, and principles in order to connect people and local communities. And the final characteristic ensures contribution-based participation, since people do not only gain when getting, but also when giving. So then we came up to investigate what are the best practices in short food supply chains. What are those practices that fosters social innovation in short food supply chains? The result of our literature review and desk research, as well as the validation process through the community of practices, showed that it is important, what is important for short food supply chains is to relocalize food systems and shorten the geographical and their physical distance. However, it's also equally instrumental to remake common activities that will reduce the social distance. As you can see, all these activities contain best practices that enhance the social proximity of short food supply chain members to each other, improve the operation of a short food supply chain, and eventually stimulate changes such as new relationships, new mentalities, new processes, new ways of doing business that allow genuine social innovation to materialize. One critical issue here is to have a group of dedicated stakeholders that have realized their role as leaders in co-shaping their own future. So the previous tasks have been validated through a community of practice technique, of course. We used the word cafe variant during this process because it's a rather interaction and co-creative technique that can ascertain that each and every participant would significantly influence the outcome of the validation process. And well, 12 community of practices were held, and 9 partners and 12 community of practices were held. And the core message of this community of practices for short food supply chains is that for short food supply chains to make a social impact and to enhance their and society's capacity to act, they need to develop and implement solutions themselves. Also, another crucial outcome of this community of practice process is to have a group of dedicated stakeholders that have realized their role as co-leaders in co-shaping their own future. And after setting the methodological and conceptual framework for social innovation in short food supply chains, then the next task of work package 3 is to investigate how social innovation can be measured. So we developed the social innovation assessment template, which social innovation assessment template is going to be discussed by the Bari Chiam partner, which is responsible for this task. So I'm giving the floor to Bar Chiami to continue this presentation.
Yes, thank you, Eugenia, and good morning to everybody. You can listen me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We can continue on this presentation. And so, as Eugenia said, we created this tool to assess the social innovation of the level of social innovation inside the organization. And the main innovative elements of this tool was to have added 2 dimensions that are typical to social innovation to the 3 traditional, we can say, ones that are the economic, the environmental, and the sociocultural dimension. We had the dimension of the governance and the influence in the sense that the positive attitude that the organization have towards other sectors or other organizations. And so we created this, this is the structure of SEAT, and that was applied to the case studies of the project. And the result was, the first result of this application was an individual report for each organization. If Eugenia can go on and to see the picture. Yes, this report, this individual report, which with all the data of for each organization, the score for each dimension, and the visualization of the total score for social innovation level, like as you can see in a radar, and how we can give a score. We translated all the items that are included in the dimensions in values in different ways. So to have for each item investigated a value. And so it was possible to arrive, to quantify, and arrive to a number. I mean. To a value. And we said why it is so important to assess this dimension, the social innovation, the social impact of the organization. It's important because through the analysis of these dimensions, it is possible, please next, to better understand the value generated by an organization, and so to better communicate this value to the consumer, and so as a consequence to have a better position on the market, but at the same time also to take some corrective actions if they are needed. And these are also a tool to reformulating at local level some public policy. And so in a general way, it's possible for each organization to uncover the own potential for social innovation. After this, the analysis at the individual level for each organization, we go on with a comparative analysis, and using a business intelligence software, Power BI, we, for an interactive visualization of the data set that are available to everybody, and so the user can select which are the indicators that are more interesting for him. There are the visualization of all the data acquired by the survey. So this is the first page of the Power BI presentation, where there are the general information about the organization. In the next page, we have the value that we achieve, the result of the value of the 5 dimension for all the sample of the case studies, and the level for all of them for the SEAT. So this value that you can see, and in general, all the values above 50% are positive one. And so then there are the Power BI follows with some a page dedicated to each dimension. And if we can we can go to the main findings in a short the results, we can say that in this sample of the case studies of the project, the value generated is highly distributed and communicated in a transparent way. And also there is a predominant role of customer. From the environmental point of view, there is a specific attention to eco-friendly packaging. The organic farming and the presence of traditional and local products is very widespread, and more in Med countries than in Northern Europe ones. And from the social point of view, there are the survey indicates that there are very few indications on salary level, but there is a gender balance on salary level, and this is a weak point. We can say there is a low level of collective investment and collective request for credit access, and there are no welfare services, but a very active role in the communities. And if we can say we want to go dimension by dimension on the weak point, we can say that for the economic dimension, the lowest values that we found, it's as we say, collective investment, and so there are, we can say in general, some limitation in financial collaboration among the actors of the short food supply chain. For the environmental dimension, the lowest values are the CO2 emission, and this is maybe for is due to the lack of data or awareness about these items. And in general, also not very high value about the energy from renewable sources. And from sociocultural, for the sociocultural dimension, again, this collective and the sharing of venues or usage of venues owned by third organization represent the lowest values. For the governance, the involvement of customer in strategic decision is quite low value, but is much higher values in organization that operate only in short food supply chain. And finally, for the influence dimension, there is a positive influence on other production sectors and very good results in network creation. After this, so the application of this tool that can potentially have a very large and wider application on all the organization that wants to assess this their level of social innovation. We proceed also with the identification of the vision, the mission, and the objectives of the stakeholders involved in the chain using the methodology of the Tree of Life. And then, as a result, we had this was important for the identification of this toolkit for the creation of some innovative ideas to foster social innovation along the chain. And the results of this exercise that we made together with the case studies and with the national lab manager that I would like to thank for their collaboration, is that the main tool identified by the organization was the tools related to communication, so that it was identified as the first important tool to be enhanced for fostering social innovation. The networks construction and facilitation tools, some mechanism for collective actions, and also active learning facilitation tools, and in general training and data management. So the whole package 3 was completed with this last deliverable, and it was really a pleasure to participate to this workshop, and I would like to thank everyone, all the partners involved in the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anna Rita and Eugenia, for your very, very nice presentation. And thank you and to all other participants in Work Package 3 for the very nice job you did. We're a bit late in time, so we will continue with the last presentation in this first part. And it will be about food-related consumer behavior. And Verena from our university will inform you about the results. So please, Verena, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Susanne. Hello from my side. I will start sharing my screen and then it starts. So, do you see the presentation mode?
Yes, now we can see it.
Okay. So, welcome from Work Package 4. It's my pleasure to present our basic results. And I'm not the work package leader. The work package was led by UFIC, and it was Betty involved here. She's on maternity leave, so it's my pleasure to take over this job. Let's start with the partners. And I also would like to thank all the partners for the fruitful collaboration and the nice atmosphere in this work package. So thank you all for the good work. I will start telling you about what we did, and then we come to the basic results. And of course, I have to keep it short. I could tell you much more, but we have not the time to tell you everything that we found. I start with what we did. And we did interviews, stakeholder interviews of experts in summer 2019. That was our first data collection measure. We did focus groups, consumer focus groups, that were groups of consumers that were discussing in a group about their behavior, about short food supply chains. And we did that in all the listed countries. And in each country, we had a rural and an urban group. So the consumers came from a rural or urban area. Then we did a quantitative consumer online survey, also in the 4 countries listed. And we did that in November last year. We had some delay because of the pandemic. But finally, we surveyed around 500 participants from each of the countries. And as you can see with these symbols, and we will see these symbols together with the results, so the people here and the people talking, they mark the results, or they mark where the results come from. And of course, we based all our actions on the findings of prior research. So of course, all these activities were accompanied by desk research and by looking into prior projects of what they found and what they did. So first, let me talk about generally what we found about how consumers shop. How do consumers shop for groceries? And here, not surprisingly, the mostly visited channel for purchasing food are supermarkets and local grocery stores. So here in this frequency chart, we just see the frequencies of these categories of the what the people said. How often do you shop in the listed channels? And in the green part here says, okay, that's very often. They perform this or they go to this channel very often, weekly to almost daily. And when we go further in the list and we see what is the first or the most frequented pure short food supply chain, we come to farmers markets. So farmers markets are the most frequented short food chain, and around 1/3 of the respondents visit these markets at least once a month. Yeah, we had some differences across the countries, but this is the most popular short food supply chain. They say it's a pure short food supply chain. Of course, you can find foods from short chains in specialist shops, in supermarkets, well, in all channels as well, but this is hard to detect. So the really pure chain is the one I mentioned. And what was also a bit surprising to us is that there are many consumers who say that they never purchase food online. Yeah? So quite a high share of consumers have not started to buy their food online. Also a general finding. So let's go deeper into short food supply chain customers. We found that 73% of the consumers we surveyed can be characterized as short food supply chain customers. Yeah, they buy there at least sometimes. And we see some differences across the countries. Yeah, we saw that in Germany, we had quite a high share of short food supply chain customers. The lowest share was found in Spain, where we can see that Spain, Hungary, and Greece are quite similar regarding to this percentage. And here on the right-hand side, you see again the topic of farmers markets. And here you see the percentage of consumers who go there at least once a week. So here you see that especially in Greece and in Hungary, people very often visit farmers markets, yeah, I would say on a really regular basis. Okay, so the next topic that I have brought with me is, what do consumers buy at short food supply chains? And yeah, here you see, it's a bit full, but here you see overview of the countries surveyed, and we see that most of consumers, fruit and vegetables, are among all countries, are a product or products that the consumers typically buy from short chains. We see eggs in all countries, and then we have some country typicalities, which represents the traditional food that comes from these countries. So, for example, I have circled olive oil in Spain and in Greece. This is a traditional food, which is, of course, produced in these countries, and this is something that people buy from these food chains. In Germany, we eat a lot of bread, so it's a traditional food in Germany, and then you see that consumers tend to buy this from short food chains. Yeah? We also often have honey in the range of products, especially highly mentioned in Greece. Again, a very traditional food in Greece. And yeah, in Hungary, we found, besides the mentioned categories, that sausages and meat products are among the often purchased products. On the next slide, I give you just a quick look on the same topic, just in terms of the bar chart. So here you also see that there are quite a lot of differences. So that was one of the questions that we asked, where we found the greatest differences across countries, yeah, which is not surprising again, because it reflects the traditional food consumed in the country, and of course also what grows in the different countries, or what can be produced in the different countries. Yeah, the least demanded categories you also see here, which is jam, juices, and cereals, legumes, also with quite high country differences. Okay, let's have a look at the reasons of why do people buy from short food supply chains. And here we asked all consumers, those who actually are customers from short chains were asked about their reasons, and those who said they don't really go to these chains, they said, or they were asked, what would be a reason for you? Yeah, so we have the whole sample included in these questions, and we see that the most agreement came to the statement to support local producers. So consumers want to support local producers. They want to know where it comes from. Yeah. They think the food is more natural, so that is also a reason, and they think it's better for the environment. Yeah. And then it is followed by other things like quality, taste, and so on. But I've highlighted the most important reasons. They came from the quantitative survey, but when we looked into our interviews and our focus group outcomes, this was quite consistent with what people mentioned in these groups and in these interviews. So what are reasons, on the other hand, against buying from short food supply chains? We can also say these are obstacles to buy from short chains. And the first and most important reason seems to be that people say the products are too expensive. Yeah? Another reason, or the other reasons, can be kind of summarized into accessibility issues, because they say it's hard to get there. It's hard to get the food from short chains, harder than when you think about supermarkets. They are not well promoted. So many people say or feel they don't know really what is offered from short chains. They don't really know where they can find them. So promotion is an important issue. And and then the fourth aspect has to do with convenience. People feel that the food is not so readily available, and I guess also compared to the convenient supermarkets. A quick note about which kind of consumers buy from short food chains. Yeah, what we found is, how are these consumers characterized? Well, they care more about their health, more about ethical issues, and more about the environment compared to non-customers of short chains. And we also found that these consumers, they are influenced from their personal environment, from their peers and partners regarding the issue of buying local food. So this is an influence that is considerable. And the feasibility played a role in terms of time, money, and access. So people have to have enough money, enough time, and have to feel that they have a good access in order to purchase from short chains. So now we, putting all that together, there was a regression model performed, but which we could say, okay, putting everything together, what are the main drivers of purchases? And here we found that aggregating it together, ethical issues or ethical values are the most important drivers to purchase from short food supply chains. Yeah. In some countries, we found that there is a lack of trust. Yeah, we already heard that in the previous presentations. We also heard about accessibility, which is physical and in financial terms, about income. But the most important drivers, in the end of the day, is the ethical dimension, and that is quite interesting, and that is quite something I will wrap up with in the main findings. A quick look on the COVID situation. Well, COVID caused us a lot of problems and also a delay in conducting our survey. We didn't want to conduct our online survey exactly when the pandemic has started. It was planned to do that in spring 2020, and we delayed it until the autumn. People were still influenced by the pandemic, of course, but we thought it is wise to start doing the survey, because we cannot wait longer, and we told the people also that they should respond as the time before the situation. And we also thought it is good to wait, because people have at that time, they had adapted, they got used to the situation somewhat after half a year of the pandemic. But on the positive side, we could get some insights about how the pandemic impacted the consumers' behavior towards short food supply chains. And this is what we see here. Well, I have to say thank you to these infographics that I show here. Thank you for the Greek colleagues who have prepared them. I also showed one a couple of slides before. Here we see that people get more aware of short food supply chains. They change their opinions about short food supply chains in a positive way. So they think more positive about short chains because of the situation of the pandemic. We have increased purchase intentions across the consumers, and many people reported to feel that short chains help countries to be better prepared for a crisis. And this is what we have experienced. There were problems in long and complex supply chains, and it was kind of felt that this could be a solution towards a more stable food supply. Okay, let me come to the key conclusions and recommendations. I'll quickly sum up our findings. Farmers markets are the most popular form of short food supply chains in the country that we have investigated. The most frequently bought products are vegetables, fruits, egg, honey, and bread. The reasons to buy are to support local producers, to know about the origin of the food, and the feeling that consumers buy a more natural food, which is better for the environment. Obstacles were higher prices, limited accessibility, and also of convenience, which has to do with accessibility, and a lack of promotion, feeling that people don't know about what is on offer. Boiling it down to what is the most important driver, we found that ethical benefits are the most important driver on an aggregated level. A lack of trust seems to be an issue in some countries. That is also something that should be addressed, and I think we heard that also from Andras in his presentation, that trust is an important issue. And the relevant benefits and details about the production must be explained to consumers. And this is also what Anders said. It has to be explained in an easy to understand way to make consumers aware, hey, they are these products and they have a lot of important benefits. You care about these benefits, but they have to know about the offer. And then finally, what we can also see is that partnerships, cooperations, collaborations may help to adjust the offerings. For example, to put a wider range of products in one place, to enhance trust, to enhance convenience, and so forth. So I put that together into 5 tips for short food supply chains. Communicate the ethical aspects, because we saw that they are very important. Enhance the accessibility and convenience. Highlight the naturalness and adjust your offerings. Establish trust, justify prices, and show the difference. What is the difference of short food chains compared to traditional or conventional offerings? And get to know your customers. Get in contact with customers to adjust the offering. All right, and now what can we do? So these are our 5 tips, and now we can quickly look, I try to make it quick, into what we found from earlier steps, like from the focus groups. already there it was mentioned that consumers want to have more knowledge. Consumers want to know about food production. They want to hear about the benefits. They want to know, what's the difference in profits, for a producer engaging in direct selling compared to other channels. And they think they want to get in relationship and get in touch with the food chains. Similar here, that's also what we found in our focus groups, and we can link our quantitative findings back to this. Even there, people said, yeah, what's the difference of small-scale farming? It is less resource intensive. So people often didn't understand why should it cost more. So some people in the focus group articulated this concern or this idea. I don't understand, why should it be more expensive? It is slower, it has lower yields, and these are the reasons why it costs more. And when we help consumers to understand more about this, this could enhance the acceptance and enhance the willingness to pay a higher price to support a good cause and a sustainable production method or way of production. And finally, it depends on the channel, how issues of convenience, accessibility, and trust can be addressed by different means. Yeah, as we heard before, for example, convenience can be enhanced by delivery services, by online platforms. Yeah? Farmers could work together, putting products in one place to increase the variety of the offering, and so forth. So it depends on the channel, and and there is a lot that can be done to make short food chains even more attractive to consumers. So, and now, I had quite a while now talking. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy if there are some questions.
Thank you very much, Verena, for this excellent presentation. Quite impressive how many results and interesting results you got in this project. Congratulations, and thanks to you and all the other people involved in this work package. Yeah. So, hello, welcome after the coffee break. In the meantime, we received 2 questions, and Caspar will announce the questions.
Yes, thank you, Susanne. So the first question that we received from Flavia was, it would be great to hear something about the details around the findings related to trust or lack thereof. So I think that this is a question related to work package 4. So Verena, if you could try to address this question.
Yes, of course. What is the reason for the lack of trust? Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I speculate that this occurred in only a few countries, but on my slide that I shared, it was Germany and Spain, with where this trust had a negative impact on the purchase intention. It's a speculation, but I can add to this finding that we also had this comment from the Hungarian focus groups. Yeah, so when we conducted the focus groups in Hungary, there were also consumers who said that they are concerned about food safety, in particular. So it may be that it seems to be an issue. To more or less extent in most of the countries, and I think people perceive it to be less regulated, less labels, less packaging, I think this is the reason. And in Germany, I could assume. I mean, I know a bit about the German market as living there myself. Everything is regulated a lot, so it makes a huge contrast. Then if you see products where you don't feel it is very regulated. So that could, my speculation about that. Does that help?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Verena. And the second one is also related to trust. It's regards the if there are some more detail on the responses from all countries. If there is some if there's a possibility to share some more details from all countries related to this trust issue.
Okay, it's me again. Yeah, of course. I mean, we have detailed results about that in our report, which is actually online, and we have a data analysis performed also for all countries. So we have an appendix in this report, and even if we present the main results aggregated over all countries, when you look in our appendix, there you see all the questions broken down for each of the countries. So there you could definitely learn more about that, and also in our focus group report. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is, thank you, Verena. This is also a way to remind all participants that all the public report or deliverable are included in our publication section in the innovation platform. Later on, we will have a presentation regarding the platform. So you can have more detailed information about the finding and the result of the project.
Yeah, I would also just like to add something to what Verena said about the trust. So as she said, also in the Hungarian groups, for example, in the focus groups, it was there was a discussion about the people don't trust that of the labeling that is in the product. So they don't trust that if they say there is regional or it's local, they don't really know. The labels are not. They don't know from where the labels come from, so they don't trust the labels and they don't trust what they say. So they were also mentioning that sometimes they like to buy products that are not local because they trust the international products much more than the products they have in the region because of this labeling and false publicity that they mentioned. But yeah, you can go to our reports. I'm sure you're gonna find even more exciting results there, or contact us directly, and then we can help you find them.
Javier, can I add something? It's Catherine.
Sure.
Yeah, not coming from Smartchain, but in a journal of the field, I read an article recently on a study at farmers markets where traceability of the food that was offered, and in fact there were some dishonest sellers who had purchased food in the supermarket and then were selling it at the farmers market at a higher price, claiming that it was organic or local or such. And there may be people who have also read this research, and it makes me think that a strong publicity campaign is required to, and some control to show that this is not the case. And I think many people have these doubts.
Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we continue with the second part, and the next presentation will be about integrative sustainability assessment, and Jens and Laura will give us the presentation. So please, I think Jens is the first one. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me and can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfectly.
Perfect. Then welcome everybody also from my side. It's my pleasure to present to you the results and also what we did in general in Work Package 5 in the next minutes. Sorry, now I have dropped. Oh, okay, sorry, there was a problem with the presentation. As you can see here, as also the other work packages, Work Package 5 is a collaborative work package, and we had Agroscope, ASTI, CTCPA, Innovestiona Ambiental, and Food and Drink Europe as participating partners. And as we shared the work among these organizations and the people participating, you will also hear different people speak up during this presentation to present their part of the work. But before we come to the content and to the results and the recommendations derived based on that, I'd like to give you a brief introduction on the objectives and methods we used. So we had different rounds of data collection, in 2 steps. First round of data collection, where we collected general data of all the case studies involved in this project to get an overview and to be able to do a categorization and selection. And for the selected case studies, we had then a second round of data collection with a more detailed questionnaire about social and also environmental data for these case studies. And with that data, we applied then 2 methods that are both a kind of life cycle assessment, environmental life cycle assessment and the social life cycle assessment, with the goal to compare the short food supply chains under assessment with their reference situation, which means a long supply chain. And to complement that approach, we also had a qualitative questionnaire. The other 2 methods are quantitative. A qualitative questionnaire to bring in the perspective of the producers. And based on that, we then derived recommendations that were relevant on a more general level, let's say for more case studies applicable to other regions and all these kind of things. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Laura, who will give you more insights on the environmental assessments and especially the main outputs. Laura, please.
Hello, everyone. Here we present the key insights of the environmental assessment, which is based on the case studies that we've looked at in our work package. We present them by life cycle stage, starting with the primary production. The agricultural phase is the main contributor to the environmental impact across all different kinds of supply chains. This is mainly due to the emissions related to the production of fertilizers, the application of plant protection products, and land use change. Then emissions from processing and transformation depend on the related electricity use, the electricity mix, the heat use, and the source of the heat. The impact of these energy sources depend on the background processes. If, for example, coal mining is needed, then emissions are typically important. Packaging is typically not a main contributor in agricultural supply chains, but of course there are also exceptions. The magnitude of the impact from packaging depend on the type of raw material that is used, the lifespan of the material, and its end-of-life scenario. And it's also the reusability and the associated use of electricity and water that are key parameters. Then we have the impact and storage, the impact of storage and shop. They are highly variable depending on the type of storage. The most impacting type of storage is the cooled storage, followed by frozen storage. The storage at ambient temperature has the lowest impact, which seems quite obvious to us, I mean, to everyone probably. Transport and logistics, which is on the next slide. Yeah, transport and logistics. They are often a bit less efficient in short food supply chains than in long food supply chains, but of course this is not always true. The efficiency of the system depends on the amount of goods transported per length of transport distance. If this ratio is small, the logistics stage is negligible in the overall footprint of the agricultural product. However, consumer transport can be the main contributor of the product's impact. The consumer's impact is especially high if a long distance is driven for a small food basket. Creating short food supply chains that enable the consumer to have a low impact transport is the main lever to create environmentally sustainable short food supply chains. And with this, I'm giving to Pauline from CTCPA.
Yes, hello everybody. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, perfect. So yes, I'm going to present you a part of our work in the environmental assessment. So as Laura told just previously, the consumer transport is one of the most contributing steps of an environmental impact of a product. And this consumer transport depends on 3 parameters, which are the distance, the size of the food basket, and the means of transport. So the objective of this part of the work package 5 was to vary this parameter in order to determine under which conditions the short food supply chain can perform better than the long one. So we'll present today only the results for one short food supply chain, which is the cooperative shop. And for this example, we set the consumer transport at 14 kilometers. And then we vary the size of the food basket, which is on the graph on the x-axis, and the type of car. So in the project, we have studied 3 types of car. A normal petrol car, which is in green on the graph, and 2 types of electric car, one with a low emission in orange on the graph, so with an eco-friendly electric mix, and one other with a high emission in gray on the graph. And we will present today only the results for the petrol car. So we will look at the green curve for the results. And we compare this short food supply chain with 2 types of long food supply chains, one in an urban area and one other in a rural area. And the distance and the size of the food basket are assumed to be higher for the long food supply chain in a rural area. And on the graph, both long food supply chain are set constant to be used as a reference for the comparison with the short food supply chain. So when we compare the short food supply chain, so the green curve with the long food supply chains, we look at the crossing points, so the point A and B on the graph. So in a rural area, so the point A, from a food basket of 18 kilograms, the short food supply chain with a petrol normal car is more efficient than the long food supply chain. And in an urban area, so we are looking at the point B, the short food supply chain performs better than the long one if the consumer buys more than 36 kilograms. And in the deliverable, we have conducted the same exercise for 2 other types of short food supply chains, the on-farm sale and the farmer's market. And let's continue with the socio-economic assessment.
Thank you, Pauline. Okay, so that will be from the environmental part. So regarding the results obtained for the socioeconomic assessment, the first of the 3 categories chosen is workers, as you can see. So the dark pink column refers to the short food supply chains and the light one to the long chain. So it is important to mention here that the results for each indicator are given in relation with the socioeconomic risk they involve. So the higher the bar, the higher the risk will be. So in short food supply chains in general, there is a higher risk of having lower salaries, and maybe due to the small size of the enterprises, they've got no workers representative. As we saw in the questionnaires, they don't think they need one because they solve all the problems in the company by debating among themselves, so they don't need any head for that. Regarding the strengths of these chains, they've got lower cases of violations of laws and employment regulations and more suitable working hours, as you can see. But regarding the health and safety indicator, as you may notice, it wasn't taken into account. I didn't mention it because the reason for this is that it is impossible to extrapolate these results to reality. Why? Because we cannot really compare the same amount of accidents in a year, maybe, for example, between a 20 workers company with a 10,000 workers company. It wouldn't be like realistic. Because the impact on the smaller company would be way bigger and it couldn't be extrapolated. So that would be for workers stakeholder categories. The second stakeholder category would be the value chain actors, for which both indicators show better results for the short food supply chains, as you can see, representing less corruption and the position of certifications that ensure social responsibilities. In the other side, we have the third and last stakeholder category, which is local community and society. So in this case, the indicator is measured not through risk, but through economic contribution, not as the previous one. So we can say that short chains have a notable embodied value added, since they, as we know, they don't have really any intermediaries between them and the consumers, so that's benefits they obtain. But in the other side, they don't really handle the amount or the enough amount of product for her business to contribute to the economic development as they do, for example, in long chains. So that would be the main reason for the low contribution. But we saw that the social part, they have like big impacts, good impacts. So that's a key point we should take into account. So now I hand over to Luis from Innovación Ambiental for the qualitative part of the socioeconomic assessment.
Thank you, Anne. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, so for the main general outputs of the qualitative assessment is that beyond economic reasons, such as better prices, social integration and empowerment have a great importance in the involvement of food producers in short food supply chains. Their most important advantages for producers are first the direct relationship with consumers, which is qualified as convivial and supportive, but also the control they keep on their product along the value chain. And also big distribution seems complementary in some cases, especially for bigger producers, since it allows them to sell bigger volumes and provide efficient logistics and a more stable demand. Next slide, please. But we also found out significant differences between the different models of short food supply chains. For example, in the direct modalities of sales, the personal relationship with consumers fosters all the benefits in producers' perceptions, especially the positive effect on self-esteem and solidarity feeling. The collective models, where several production units join to commercialize their products together, they mainly enhance their bargaining power, as well as the resilience and robustness of their business models. And finally, the CSA models, so the community-supported agriculture, seem to offer higher business certainty for the contractual way of selling, and the producers that sell in this type of chain value more the solidarity feeling and the integration in their community. Next slide. Thank you. The perception of the benefits of short food supply chains also varies according to other factors, such as the type of product. We saw that the economic advantages and empowerment appear to be particularly more relevant for producers handling animal-based products. These producers perceive almost all the short food supply chains advantages as more important. The type of organization producers belong to also influences the perceptions of advantages. Producers running a family farm, for example, give relatively more importance to some aspects, like the business model robustness, the positive effect on their self-esteem, the prices, their bargaining power, and the diversity and interest of their job. On another hand, the cooperatives give more importance to solidarity, fair trading practices, and quality of life. And finally, it's also worth to note that there are significant differences in producers' opinion according to the country. So now I give the floor back to James.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for these contributions. So on this slide, you can see the main conclusions on the impacts of the short food supply chains we found in our work package for the environmental assessment and the socio-economic assessment. But due to the time constraints for this presentation, I will not mention that more detailed, but it's more for documentation purposes that you have it in the slides, so you can read it afterwards, and it sums up quite good what we found. But what I'd like to mention is the environmental recommendations, and later then on also the socio-economic recommendation. Yes, we've ordered that in two parts, consumers and producers and public authorities. And as we heard, for the consumers, consumer transport is really the main driver of the environmental impacts. And thus, it's also a powerful lever for reducing the environmental impacts. So the consumer can contribute to that by two means, basically. He can choose an environmentally friendly means of transport, such as a bike, a public transport, or electric vehicles. But he can also reduce the distance traveled per unit of product. And therefore, there are also two ways to influence that. On the one hand, of course, the transport distance plays a role. So the consumer can choose a supply chain which is close to his own place. And on the other hand, the food basket, as we have seen, plays a role. So if the food basket per purchase is increased, then the environmental impacts specific to the product unit decreases. The public authorities can also play a role, so they could foster the development of traditional farmers markets and cooperative shops, and provide platforms for primary producers to connect and to build networks of primary producers that they can complement each other's offers. From the socio-economic part, we have seen that for the practitioners, the association with other producers and chains is really important. So this can help to share knowledge, investment, and resources, but also to optimize logistics and get a higher visibility. It can help to diversify the offer and the channels, and it can, with that, also stabilize the annual task schedules and avoid work overload. The increase of the accessibility of the products is a very important point, as we've heard several times today. And we would recommend to the practitioners to carry out informative and educational campaigns that are focused on the transparency and traceability of the products. And last, but by far not least, we would recommend to listen to and care for the consumers, so to really stay in contact with them. Regarding the public authorities, we think that they could help with fostering the local reindustrialization, to bring, for example, slaughterhouses or processing plants closer to the producers. They could help to support the differentiation of the short food supply chains through objective criteria and sustainability indicators. So, for example, with favoring tax systems, incentives, or also adaptation of the HACCP standards. And we think that the authorities could encourage the local authorities to provide the necessary assistance for the producers to keep developing their actions in that sense. So we've tried to synthesize all of that, and we think that they are, based on the work we did in our work package, that it can be concluded that there are some key elements that characterize sustainable short food supply chains. So from our perspective, sustainable short food supply chain needs to allow, first, a diversification of distribution channels and points of sale. Second, a collaborative approach of different producers with the goal to create a critical mass in number and mass of products and to share knowledge and experience. And third, to have a close and direct contact with the consumers, both from a geographical and social perspective. In addition to that, both the producers and the consumers can minimize the environmental impact of logistics, which is quite important, as we've seen, by choosing environmentally friendly means of transport and using their transport capacity as efficiently as possible. So very briefly, this was the results of Work Package 5, and I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all the people participating there for really good collaboration. And I think we've come to some interesting insights. And with that, I thank all of you and looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jens, for this excellent presentation. Thank you to you and all the team involved in the work package today and during the last 3 years. So great job, very interesting, excellent results. I would suggest also that questions are written in the chat, and after the third presentation now, we can come back to the questions. So the second presentation now in this part 2 will be first about the innovation platform given by Catherine. That's a very relevant part of the project related to sustainability after the end of the project. And the second part of the presentation will be given by Mark about short food supply EU community. So please, Catherine, the floor is yours.
Catherine, we cannot hear you. Now.
Yes, now I think I am ready.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm here to tell you about the Smartchain innovation platform. Partners at 6 institutions contributed to the development and the success of this platform. And in particular, I want to note my colleagues at IFA, that's Fotini and Anna. Like most websites, the Smartchain innovation platform aims to communicate. But this is also a place where users can share knowledge and there is dissemination of project results. The site aims to be sustainable. I'll tell you more about that later. And the target audience for this site is you. That is, people who are interested in short and innovative food supply chains. So, how successful are we with our target audience? Have you ever visited the Smartchain innovation platform? Let's take 1 minute now to please go to our live Vox vote and answer our very simple and anonymous question. Have you ever visited the Smartchain innovation platform? The link is on your screen and it's also in the chat. And the voting begins. About 30 more seconds to cast your vote. Any problems with the voting, just make a note in the chat, please. And I don't see the results. I don't know why, but I'm going to just continue and hopefully we'll find a resolution to this. I'll come back and tell you that we did this same vote and we saw the results in September of 2019. And that was at the first project meeting of the Smartchain project. And we asked project partners this same question. And this was this was 1 year after the project started and the platform had just gone live and about half of the project partners had visited the platform. We worked hard to improve that, and a year later, at the project meeting in September 2020, we asked again, and now close to 90% of our partners had visited the platform. Our strategy for improving the platform was bottom up. In 2019, we asked the Smartchain partners what we could do in our work package to make them find the platform improved. We asked this during the project meeting. We received 22 quite varied answers, which we grouped into 4 large categories, and these were to improve the content, to increase the publicity, to be interactive, and to be accessible. The first thing we did was to make the platform accessible by adding a Google Translate, where one click gives a choice of over 100 languages. And you can see all the text is automatically translated. We came back in September 2020 at the project meeting and asked about the 4 categories of improvements. And we saw here
Catherine, sorry, we cannot see your presentation.
Oh, geez. Here I am talking away and I can't see my presentation. Let's see. I'm sorry. Let's come back here. How about this? How's that?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. So here are the 100. Oh, let me go back then for a second and show you what other people said. So here are the results about visiting the innovation platform in previous years. And here are the results from the Smartchain partners about what we could do to improve the platform. And these were the 4 general categories. And here's the first big improvement we did, making translation automatic into over 100 languages. And then we came back to the partners and we asked them, what is the most important improvement that we can do? And our vote here showed in September 2020 that content was what people really wanted on the platform. They also wanted publicity. We started working on content, and we added content by adding 2 databases to a tab called Resources. Here we can find a collection of web links that are connected to short food supply chain activities. And we can also find a collection of publications. The publications include the project deliverables, and they include peer-reviewed publications, which you might find elsewhere, but they also include unique publications, videos, presentations, and infographics, like this one, which is about short food supply chain benefits. And this was made by our colleagues in Work Package 4. The other major content that we worked on was to improve the 2 inventories on the platform. This is the initiative inventory and the innovation inventory. In the initiative inventory, you can find successful examples of short food supply chains around Europe. Things like, oops, and I'm not moving. Things like a farm that you can visit in Switzerland, or right before it, an organic winery in Crete. And in the innovation inventory, you see some pictures of innovations ranging from solutions in production, like freeze drying and high pressure, to websites where short food supply chain products are available with a single click. The innovation inventory now has almost 150 innovations. You can search for these with a free search like you see here. You can also search by putting keyword or country. Soon, you'll be able to rate the innovations with a 5-star rating. And if you're registered on the Smartchain platform, and registration is very easy, simple 2 minutes process, then you can add an innovation to the inventory by filling out this online form. By far, the innovation inventory is the most visited page on the Smartchain platform. Here you see, this is a graph from a publication that is in review right now at the International Journal of Food Studies. And here you see on the bottom over 4,000 visits to the Smartchain Innovation Platform homepage and 1,500 to the innovation inventory, more than twice the visits to the next most popular pages on the platform. The other big content area on the platform is the training area. And here you can see a graph that shows the results of a question asked to the Smartchain partners. How likely are you to take an e-learning course? And close to 50% were extremely likely or likely. At the next project meeting, we asked if partners would take the course we were developing, Best Practices in Short Food Supply Chain Innovation, and we wanted to know if we should put the effort into making ECTS credits available for people who completed the course. But you see here that over 50% wanted to take the course just for their own education, or if they got a certificate from the Smartchain project. So we developed this course, and it is now on the training site of the platform, along with the 18 innovation and solution-oriented multi-actor workshops that Javier had mentioned, available in the 9 languages of the project, and also the e-learning course, a 5-week course that is free, is offered twice a year, and where you do indeed earn a Smartchain certificate when you have successfully completed the course. So this course just finished its first run. And for the first run, we had 224 people in 58 countries, literally from around the world, who registered for this course. The second run of the course will start on the 12th of July. Registration is still open, and you can register following this link. And I think we can also put the link in the chat so you can register for the 5-week course on best practices in short food supply chain innovations. And you too can earn a Smartchain certificate, and you can add that to your CV. We listened also to the suggestion to publicize the platform, and we did that in several different ways. And one of them was with this short video, 20 seconds, that is advertising our e-learning course. And let's see if I can manage to show that. Okay. So that fits in most people's attention span. And we put that video on all the social media, Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and we sent it around by email, and we got 224 registrations. We also publicized the platform from its beginning by putting articles in newsletters, including the one you see here, the Iseki newsletter, which goes to 8,000 plus subscribers, and putting other posts on our social media and social media of related places. So there's plenty more to come for the innovation platform. Javier mentioned that these 5 recently funded projects have agreed to participate in the platform and to contribute to the platform. So yes, the sustainability for at least 4 more years is certain. And now we'll give one more try to the Vox vote, because since we're going to work on this platform for many more years, we'd like your opinion on what the most important content is for continuing to grow the Smartchain platform. So let's try Vox vote again. And for Anna, can you put it in the chat, and I'll show it again, and we'll give it another try. And I'll give it a start. And it seems people are able to vote. And hopefully we'll find the results. it worked this time. Super. Okay. Really happy to see your votes. Innovation Inventory and e-learning courses, the two most popular contents for the innovation platform. So let's go back now. And now that my presentation is over, I have all the technical issues worked out. And I will say that I'm going to turn the floor over to colleagues at AMP who are going to tell you a little more about publicity of the platform, how it's related to the LinkedIn community and to community building with the GAIN model. So with that, I turn it over to you, Mark.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. In the background, you hear my neighbors ringing the bell of the church. So that's a good moment to start. I will start my presentation first. My name is Mark from AMT and also case study local to local from and Dutch hub manager. Even kijken, we'll stop the other screen sharing. Continue. Even kijken. Let's share. I will put it on presentation mode. And if someone can confirm that you're looking at my screen, that would be great. Perfect. Okay, perfecto. Our task from local to local and AMT was to build a community through a gamification study. And that is what we have been doing the last 3 years. We developed a GAIN transition model based on a multiplayer online game where we used the networks of, as well the Smartchain network as the Dutch national network to start a gameplay where sharing and collaborative learning is the basis. With this, we had some good results. We made a network analysis of the Dutch network. Based on that, we formed a national collaboration called the Task Force Short Food Supply Chain with a mandate of the Ministry of Agriculture. We also created an innovation ecosystem of all individual players within the network of the Task Force Short Food Supply Chain. It's around 500 individual short food supply chain initiatives. And on level 2, the regional level, we created 2 formal regional alliances with the Metropolitan Region of Amsterdam and the Province of Flevoland. This model, from a business model perspective, is based on the way WordPress model works, from a freemium model and democratizing, in this case, the transition of food using all individual initiatives. It connects to all aspects of the short food supply chain, Smartchain project. There is very much interest from other countries and other projects working with this, and I would like to point out that we have a really interesting animation produced by some of our colleagues. Even kijken. How can I go to the next slide? Wait, I think I didn't share my presentation, but I only shared the slide. Let's check out if I need to fix something. A moment, please. Wait, stop the share. I have to share it over again. One moment. Share screen. En even kijken. What should I do to share it? One moment, please. Yes, this it is. What we have been doing is we've been building a community as well as integrating the community in the Smartchain
Mark,
platform.
Sorry, we can still not see the presentation.
Oh, wait.
Could you try it again, please?
Yes, I will. One moment. Share the screen. Wait 1 second. Something going wrong here. Give me a second. I need to start it over again. Sorry.
No problem. I can also share your presentation if you want it.
I think it's going to happen now. One moment, please.
Yes.
Chrome through Final Summit. Okay. Share.
Now, perfect.
Yes. Okay, that's fine. The next slide. What we have been doing is we've been building the community based on the national network using LinkedIn. And we also integrated the gain transition model in the platform of Smartchain. We've been very successful in that. So all the inventory that's on the platform has been ranked based on a local, national, international or level. And we also created a community for the Short Food Supply Chain EU network. The link is in the chat already, and I saw that almost 10 people already registered during this event for our community, and we have about 400 members at this point. The thing that we have been doing is we made an analysis from all the stakeholders within the Smartchain consortium of their network from LinkedIn. And by doing so, we created an innovation ecosystem map. And after doing that, we invited key stakeholders within our network to join the Short Food Supply Chain EU community. And we made a content calendar for LinkedIn. And what you see in the community is that there is a structured way of people sharing knowledge of short food supply chain and their own initiatives on our Short Food Supply Chain EU community platform. But we also created the same for the Task Force Short Food Supply Chain that has around 800 members at this point. The next slide will show you what we have been doing on the platform of the Smartchain. You can see the gain transition model, but also get in contact with the community. In the inventory scan, we developed a training for the gain transition model where we explain the level play, the co-creation and the collaboration, and an explanation of the theory using gamification as part of transition. And you can see the animation of the gain transition model as well. It offers, I think, a lot of potential, and the gain model is also part of 2 special issues that will be published in the last part of this year. So we're very proud of developing a gamification collaborative model, create a community for the Smartchain consortium, but also implement a community on a national and a regional level within the Netherlands that can easily be transferred to other consortia and other networks that need to work towards a collaborative way of sharing knowledge and co-create. So what we see as a next step within the gain transition model, but also within the community, if we share the gain model and use the gain model in opening up the learning ecosystem for short food supply chains and transition of our food system and regional food system in general, I think within the platform of Smartchain, using the community and the gameplay of GAIN, we can open up a network of regional alliances, co-creating on a national and international level together, transforming our food system to a more just food system. And yeah, I call it a transformational governance structure that we can use by using this platform. That's the end of my presentation.
So thank you very much, Catherine and Mark, for your excellent presentations. Very interesting. And I think these are good tools and activities concerning sustainability of Smartchain and, you know, interaction in between the consortium members also for future activities. So thank you very much. We will now continue with the third presentations in this slot. It's about business recommendations. And Eduardo, Mareike, and Katja will give this presentation. So please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So in this work package 7, we have initially to try to respond to 2 questions. What do successful SFC's innovations look like? And what are SFC's businesses like? And based on the responses to these questions, we have prepared a set of recommendations for implementing innovation, for improving business performance, and also for the policymakers. In this presentation, we are going to show you the main results related to the first 4 topics. Regarding the first question, what do successful SFC's innovations look like? In the Smartchain project, we have studied in detail the successful innovations applied by our case studies. And based on this, our knowledge and the bibliography, we have established 6 general characteristics that are usually presented in successful innovation in software supply chains. Of course, we can find good examples of innovation out of these boundaries, but we have to say that normally a couple of these characteristics are presented in successful innovation. The first one is at least 2 stakeholders involved. Many are low cost. It's not used by other companies in the same region and producing sector. It is used to improve the current products rather than to produce completely new ones. It is used to increase in some way the consumer engagement, and it is used also by the company as a marketing claim. So based on this general characteristic, we prepare 6 general recommendations for implement innovation. The first one is to collaborate with others. Nobody knows everything, so if you want to implement an innovation and you don't have the skills or the necessary knowledge, please go to the stakeholders that have this knowledge or these skills. The second one is that low-cost innovation can make the difference. We have found that some producers think that innovation is always related to a high cost, and it is not true. We have found good examples of innovation with low cost, even without cost. The next one is to seek innovation that work in other similar regions, countries, and sectors to resolve your problems. In this case, it's not like at a school. In this case, to copy is a good option. Okay. In any case, of course, if the innovation is used by others based on a patent or something like that, of course, you have to apply for a permit to use it. The next one is to prioritize the innovation that add value to your products and services. So if you have different options on the table to apply, try to prioritize the ones that are directly reflected in your foods, in your products, and your services. The next one is to think in the consumers. I think that it is maybe the most important one. We have found that some producers are normally focused on improve the food, improve the processes to produce in the better quality as possible. This is very important, but we think that we have to move the focus from the food, from the process to the consumers, to the final users. Okay, we have to try to incorporate innovation that can facilitate the purchase, facilitate the life of the consumers. And the last recommendation is to take advantages of innovation for marketing. Okay, it's a good option to use the innovation as an indirect marketing tool. Okay, because normally the companies that apply innovation are usually very well valued by the consumers, by the customers. So in this part of the work package, we have also prepared a best practice guide for implementing innovation in software supply chain based on a step-by-step path. The first step is to know your initiative, then to know your surroundings and clients. Then, based on all of the information collected, identify the bottlenecks and the improvement option of your company. Then seek and identify innovative solutions to resolve these bottlenecks. Select the innovation solution based on a cost-benefit analysis. And finally, implement innovation and go to market. Following this step-by-step path will not assure that the innovation will be 100% successful, but of course, we think that it increases the probability of fruitful innovation. We have to say that each step normally group a set of questions or recommendations to take each step in the best way as possible. We are not going to explain all of them in detail because we don't have time. But we have to say that from a general point of view, we are talking about more than 300 questions in total and more than 60 recommendations in total. So for the next topic, what are SFC's businesses like? It will be presented by my colleague, Marika Lameric from NBC. So Marika, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you all. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So first, what's the idea about the reference expectation models? First, using Canvas methodology, we constructed business model for all 18 case studies. And based on confluence points of the business models of the Smartchain case studies, we created 5 reference expectation models using this Canvas methodology again. And whether you're a farmer, a policymaker, a producer, or a tourist organization, there are different ways and roles for doing business in short food supply chain. And each of the reference model has a focus on eliminating particular aspects of the model that stands out versus other models. And in the next slides, I will explain the main characteristics of each model. And the first is a cooperative of producers. Let me see. Well, it allows its members who produce the same or similar products to cooperatively produce, process, distribute, and market and sell the products. For example, BioSwiss in Switzerland, the producers of organic fruit in the Valais region decided to join forces and founded BioFruits. And within this brand, they created a modern tool for organic farming in their region. They opened a shop for direct sales. And later, they also wanted to valorize their third category fruits. And BioFruits established a fruit press dedicated to the creation of juices and nectars. Together, they were able to make this possible. So typically, this model is chosen when production and processing is relatively expensive and can be difficult to source as an individual. And moreover, when marketing and selling are combined, it is possible to develop more and different sales channels. And the next model is about individual producers. And many farms are operated as an individually owned business. And it is probably the oldest and most common form. One person, a family, or a small group of people owns, controls, and conducts the business. And individual producers typically have a rich family heritage and relatively simple and inexpensive processing or distribution is required. And sales channels are typically an online or on-site farm shop. And besides farming, we see new activities on these farms, such as a place to educate or preserve nature. And these activities lead to more engagement from the social community and are an opportunity for new revenue streams. For example, you see here Bouke from Vlees & Co. He sells his natural meats directly to consumers and restaurants. And the next model is about community-supported agriculture. And this model is based on solidarity through a partnership between members and the farmers. And members share the costs and risks of food production by making a commitment to pay a certain amount to the farm each year. And this gives the farm a predictable income. And the CSA model has been in place for many farms for some time now in Europe. And the traditional model placed substantial emphasis on sustainable agriculture, shared production risk, consumer involvement with the production activities, and authenticity of local sourcing. And over the years, different types of CSA have evolved. For example, a subscription model, a shareholder model, and a community model. And for example, Solawi, the national concept of CSA, is in Germany. But almost every country has its own CSA coordinating center. And you see at the local level, they have their own different types of CSA. So the next, please, is the marketplaces, the online and offline marketplaces for agricultural food products. And marketplaces offer independent producers a physical and or an online platform and marketing and sales knowledge to sell their goods 24/7 without the burden of a brick and mortar store. And consumers find a wide variety of goods from different producers. And two examples. The Food Hub Budapest, Hungary provides a platform of fresh organic farm source products and make them available for anyone living in the city of Budapest. And later they formed an alliance with an online company who designed an online marketplace. And another example obtained from the innovation inventory of the Smartchain platform is a well-functioning online marketplace, the Hermenius platform in Spain. Sellers and buyers contact directly to buy and sell their products. And the next slide is about the last model. It is promotion of on-farm selling with online and offline referencing to local agriculture food. This model has the primary objective to promote and support on-farm and online selling of individual producers and to improve the visibility of the farm. At the moment, these promoting organizations conducting marketing research, for example, on consumer behavior, and share their knowledge with the individual producers. And this will add value to the producers. And this model is functioning at the local level, as you see here at the Zala open farms in Hungary, but it is also at the regional and the national level. And these organizations and initiatives are typically supported with public funds. So, and the floor is now for Katja to talk about these recommendations for implementation.
Thank you, Marike. Good morning, everyone from my side too. I will take some minutes for presenting this deliverable that is connected with guidelines for improving business performance. It collects some recommendations and tips for implementing successful business models in short food supply chain, also keeping into consideration environmental and social sustainability. We use the business model canvas methodology, as you can see, and we get tips and suggestions for improving each block of the canvas. Of course, it is important also to work with connection among one of the block and the others. In the middle, you can find the value proposition, and we work on components on your left that is involved in production. And on your right, the components are connected to the way in which the firm can reach the customers and improve the relation with them. Okay, the next, please. Let's start, for example, from the value proposition that is in the middle. So, for example, we find that some tips, such as clearly express your specific value proposition to consumers, tell stories about products and values, so all you can use to communicate the value proposition and what can make the difference. Establishing participatory forms of labeling, for example, involving consumers. About key partners, we can say something about promoting and managing local networking initiatives or education programs, and about resources, something for engaging young entrepreneurs, or some forms of peer-to-peer learning for transmission of knowledge. In the next slide, we can see as some recommendation and tips are specific for each of the reference exploitation models Marike has explained before. And so also in the final guide, you will find these stickers that represent the different reference model, and we crossed this reference model with the canvas blocks. And for example, about key partners, we can say if you are a cooperative of producers, you can expand the areas in which you practice cooperation, or about customer relationships. If you use an online and offline marketplace, you can involve customers also as ambassadors, for example. Then we have some recommendations that are specifics for facing coronavirus pandemic situations, such as carefully choose your packaging, because in home delivery it is more important. Okay, and in the next slide, we have also, we can see as some recommendations are specific for improving social aspects in short food supply chains. And for this purpose, we used the social version, this social version of the business model canvas. So also the blocks are a little bit adapted. Some example I can show to you is about local communities. You can involve the local, the whole community in asking about their needs and ideas on short food supply chain transparency, for example, in co-design activities. About social culture, we can see you can partner with the tourism sector, for example, in order to foster the link between tradition, food, and heritage. About end users, we can keep the information about the short food supply chain very simple in order to reach all kind of people, also people that are not well educated. Okay, the next, please. This is the last model we use, that is a specific version of the canvas for improving environmental aspects on a short food supply chain. Also, in this case, we have the blocks a little bit adapted. About materials, for example, we can use packaging only if necessary, or invest in new packaging methods. About the end of life, that is a very important aspect. We can say experiment compost activities. That can also be a form of community composting. For example, if you are a community supported agriculture involving also public administration and other local partners. Okay, of course, on Smartchain project website and platform, you will find the final version of the guide, and also some tools, a graphic version of the guide that is also made easy to read for better reach short food supply chain actors. Okay, the next. And thank you for your attention by the whole team, Work Package 7 team.
So thank you, Eduardo, Mareike, and Katja, for your very interesting and relevant presentation, quite impressing all the outcomes. Thanks to all the other people involved in your work package. We are a little bit late now, but you know, Caspar just gave me the feedback that all the answers in the question answer session were already answered in the chat, so this is solved. So we should continue now with a very relevant part of a Smartchain project, the policy recommendations. So please, Silvana, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very well. Thank you very much. Thank you for waiting until this time. We have learned until now a lot of aspects related to the what has been done in the projects, and what I will be doing now is trying to go a step further and related to what we could do from now on. Could you confirm that you see the full screen of my presentation?
Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so my presentation is related to the policy recommendations. And this is, of course, not a work that has been done only by University of Torino, but this has been done by many partners that we will see now. So let me give you a brief summary of what we will be talking about now, an introduction, some policy recommendation, and some conclusions. As an introduction, as we can derive from the Smartchain proposal, but it's something that is already out there, obviously, is that the EU's Rural Development Regulations, the 1305/2013, defines a short supply chain as a supply chain involving a limited number of economic operators committed to cooperation, local economic development, and close geographical and social relations between food producers, processors, and consumers. Obviously, all this morning we learned and heard many times these terms in different facets, and we will be coming back to these words, limited and close, because these are crucial words. And in addition, I would like to mention that there are some the two referring regulations, again the 1305/2013 and the regulation 807/2014, that the support for the establishment and chain is as referred to in Article 35 of the regulation. 1305 shall cover only supply chains and this is the key, involving no more than one intermediary between farmer and consumers. These are words that we need to keep in mind going on in my presentations. So as I was mentioning, in the Smartchain project, one of the objectives, and it is highlighted in these slides, is the policy recommendations based on existing policies and regulatory requirements influencing sustainable food production and consumption, specifically related to the results of the Smartchain projects. This is exactly what we have been doing in the last 3 years. As you can see here, as planned in the project, the partners that were involved in the task that was identification, legal and policy recommendations, and strategies to overcome regulatory barriers. However, throughout the project, we made it a bit larger because we decided that we needed extra partner, extra information. So along with all the partners that went for the planets, things from the beginning.
Overgraag, yeah.
Marieke, sorry, can you switch off your microphone?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I got distracted. Forgive me. Okay, along the partners of the task planned at the beginning of the project, we expanded to other partners that are in the Smartchain project, obviously, and we are mainly involved in dissecting the issues, preparing some focus groups related to other results coming from other work packages. And then we also did the step further that was interacting with other projects. And this morning, Natalia already mentioned other projects, and these are exactly some of the projects that we involve, strength to food and rubismo. So the outline of how we worked was to, in order to drive some policy recommendations, was to get the outputs from work package 1, the policy analysis, the outputs of work package 2, and the output of work package 5, which is the assessment. And then we have a dedicated workshops. As I was mentioning, we did several workshops on specific topic. So first of all, what we did was to identify the barriers that within the regulatory framework and the Smartchain project that can limit the development of the establishment of the short food supply chains in order to eventually come up with some policy recommendations. So we started, as I already mentioned, with the legal definition, that is the Regulation 1305 and 807. And then we took into account, obviously, in work package 2, that was very well emphasized, the food hygiene requirements, so the food hygiene package that we all know very well. But we also put together the information derived from the work package 1 and 2, that was, in short, we'll go into the details later in the slides, the cooperation issue. That is a big barrier in the case of short food supply chains. In the case of work package 5, the main key was the environmental impact. Jens and Laura already mentioned very well the consumer transfers, that is the last mile delivery. And also from the work package 1 and 2 and all the workshops that we organized in the work package 7 and 7.4 was the kind of limiting knowledge, awareness of information that is available out there due to the amount of work that the actor in the short food supply chains have to deal with on a daily basis. And what we also did was kind of thinking of what the key concept that came out of all our work. Well, our key concepts were basically divided in 2 categories: various problems that need to be resolved, such as the intermediary definitions issue, the need to improve the principle of flexibility application for the food safety requirements, the distance, which is a central point of several definitions, but is often an overrated concept, the necessity of a more tailored training for the actors involved in the short food supply chains, the negative environmental impact of the last mile delivery. And we also noticed among the key concepts, the solutions, the innovations, the opportunities, some such as innovative systems, like the opportunities related to the e-commerce. Do not forget that we also analyzed the impact of the coronavirus, and we tried to understand what was the meaning affecting the short food supply chains in particular, related to the impact of the pandemic in the commerce, and thus the e-commerce effect that occurred in the last years. And so the other solution, innovation, opportunities, the cooperation. Virginia mentioned many times the issue this morning, and the cooperation can be a useful approach to face the typical bottlenecks, specifically due to the small size, the concentration of supply. That is the other factor that to answer to the last minute delivery issue. So this is exactly the general concept that occurs. So then at the end of the story, we came up with the 6 policy recommendations. And I will try to outline as simple and as fast as I can. This is a repetition of the definition, just to keep in mind exactly the keywords from which we are starting. First recommendation is created a punctually specific definition of the short food supply chain. Javier already mentioned this morning the working new definition created during Smartchain. What we think is that these short food supply chains need to be recognized at European and national level to the creation of a new definition. That's easy to say. How can we do that? And what should we take into account in doing this? What is really the issue? Well, we have identified 2 key points of this policy. One, why we are talking about 0 miles, why we are not talking about the time instead of distance, because it's the short time between production and consumer that it gives quality to the food. And so more than the distance is the time between producer and consumer. So change the paradigm between from short distance to short time, for saving quality and organized the delivery, and affecting also the short food supply chains. And the second point that should be emphasized in the definition is the intermediaries' role, the role of the intermediaries that should be according to their indispensability and not to their number. The justification of this is exactly the legal definition within the EU, the Rural Development Regulation only, and from the Work Package 1, that the actors do not feel to be part of specific recognized players. We need to highlight them much more the fact that they are specifically. So the EU Rural Development Regulations define a short food supply chain, but in addition to this, which is the legal definition, various definitions of short food supply chains exist. The short supply chain is often used as an umbrella concept, and the different definitions are formulated in the light of different criteria, such as the number of intermediaries, the physical distance, the social relations, the knowledge exchange, locality, government involvement. The main problem is that these short food supply chains are affected by ad hoc national policies. It implies that there is not an harmonization at European level. The member states are left with an amount of authority for interpreting the definitions. We find such huge differences among the states, since the legal definition of small farmer or local farmers is not so precise. So we need a legal definition tailor-made for the short food supply chains that also implies that the short food supply chains at the moment are not recognized as a legal category per se, which means that in many cases the regulatory frameworks, when refers to the short food supply chains, actually refers to small or medium enterprises. Even this morning we heard many times the word of small enterprises, and so kind of parallel to short food supply chains, such as a short food supply chain is a small enterprise by definition. Is this given for granted? Short food supply chains do not always correspond to the legal definition provided by the EU legislation for small and medium enterprises. From the work package one, we have the right that they are not being recognized nor acknowledged in national policy frameworks. The local farmers feel that, and the producer, they are not sufficiently protected. It is difficult to define local because the definition is misunderstood. This last point is a recurring issue also for other topics. For other aspects of food safety, it's not clear when a small farmer is small or when production is small quantity, and so it may be difficult to understand if the principle of the flexibility that we all know well is applied. So moving from the definition, better articulation of the role of definition of the intermediaries. The other key point is intermediaries to ensure the sustainable and transparent food chains. So in the short food supply chains, the main role is by the farmer. They are the producer, they are the seller, they are the key aspects of the short food supply chains. They can contribute to minimize the number of intermediaries as well as the geographical and social distance. So we have definition of number of intermediaries, which is one. So the emphasis, should it really be the number of intermediaries? What is their specific role? So we think that the emphasis should be not in the numbers of the intermediaries, but in their roles. Try to understand, do we need them or do we not need them in order to have the food processed and reach the final consumers according to the old regulations. And second, that means that we need to update the intermediary definition existing regulatory framework. So what is the justification for all this? Well, we derive that from the work package one, each country can provide its own interpretation of the intermediary roles. And from work package 7, for several focus groups that we handle, several discussions from other work packages, and we thought that the interpretation of the role of intermediaries may have strong effects along the chain. Who is an intermediary for the short food supply chains? It is difficult to apply only a single definition, particularly due to the different legal background. It could be useful if the definition could be more flexible, so the member state could tailor the definition according to their own law and situations. So what is clear is that we need to define the role in the chain, their role in the chain. For instance, just a couple of examples. So slaughterhouses are necessary, otherwise when you raise a cattle and you need to sell the meat, you need that slaughterhouse. So that's an intermediary that is fundamental, is mandatory, is compulsory, it is necessary. So that is not really an intermediary that is simply adding to the chain, is a necessary player of the chain. Or for some processing facilities, some processors that are needed and are not available, are not possible in a small farm. So that's an intermediary that can be necessary. Maybe you need 2 of them. So it's not a matter of number, but it's a matter of the roles that the role that they play. So this is why it's very crucial, this aspect to be taken into account. Well, the third policy recommendation is related to the cooperation, the aggregation. These are the 2 key words, cooperation and aggregation, a more small producer to extend opportunities and overcome bottlenecks and obstacles. We heard very well from Eugenia the issue from a different angle. Cooperation among the small producers should be encouraged to make short food supply chain actors more efficient. And the key points of this policy recommendation is creating the innovation hubs where farmers can share facilities to process their products in which they can build the network. And otherwise it's not effective economically, and can be shared, facilities can be shared, and innovation can be created. Also, supporting the creation of a register of the short food supply chains. We come back to the issue that are not identified, are not recognized as a category, the short food supply chain. So how about create a register to help the network creations among the different actors? Well, the justifications of these two key points are quite clear from the work package 1. And for other aspects from the project, from all the analysis, the small business have high cost, sharing equipment, or mortgage, all these costs are high for small businesses. We know, and we know this very well. From work package 2, we are very clear the limited volume, the limited infrastructures or technical resources, the financial resources for investment to improve technical capability. The lack of cooperation, limited networking is indicated as the most serious bottlenecks of short food supply chains that has been clearly highlighted in the project. And the cooperative of producers present several strengths, and we should take into account absolutely this aspect in considering this cooperation for enhancing the efficacy of the small food supply chains. The fourth policy recommendation is related to the environmental impact. For ensuring the sustainability of the short food supply chains, it is necessary to minimize the environmental footprint, to coordinated logistics and an efficient food distribution. How well we heard this morning, Jens and Laura mentioned this. This is definitely an aspect. So the key points of the policy would be developing a solid social and physical infrastructure, such as the food hubs, to reduce the distance between producer and consumer, to promote aggregation and local economy, and apply the food hub concept to digital solutions, creating the digital food hubs, going even further in these aspects. And the justification of this is very clear from the project, from work package 5, from work package 7, from other projects. It was clear that the short food supply chains are associated with higher food miles and consequent larger carbon footprints. The consumers travel more kilometers to buy small quantities of foods. If you combine the distance that you have to reach the food and the small quantity that each farmer can give you, that it comes with the higher food miles. So despite the common public belief, the environmental impact has been revealed not to be so advantageous, especially because the consumer transport, the last mile delivery issue. And that means that not too much for the packaging, because they are reusing well the packaging, but the issues of the last mile delivery is really crucial. And so then adding to that, we can justify, because we have other information from the other work package and other projects, is that the internet selling and local food hubs perform best from an environmental perspective, because we can really reduce the last mile delivery by organizing through the internet selling and to the food hubs. Definitely this would be a way to reduce these impacts. Number the 2.5, the fifth, previous to the last one, is achieving compliance to the legal requirement on food and hygiene, food safety. Support the application of the flexibility and the implementation of the food hygiene requirement in the short food supply chains. We all know that the issues of the EU food hygiene package is just recalling these slides. There's several regulations, the 852, the 853 of 2004, and then the 625 to 2017, and the for the all this aspect to be tackled in the food hygiene. We cannot rely on the food hygiene and food safety issue. How can we overcome these issues? Well, by enhancing the application on the principle of flexibilities among the short food supply chains, and because that is available and not and is hardly put it into practice. In fact, the second key point is supporting the training of the short food supply operator, the short food chain in total, the small scale members and local food controller officers in the application of the flexibility principle, not only the grower, not only the producers, but also the control officer, because the flexibility principle should be more widely applied. It is available. So what the justification for this recommendation is related again from the results that we got from the work packages 1 and 2 and from the focus groups handling work package 7, that small producers have difficulties in achieve compliance to the EU food hygiene requirements described in the regulations. But we need to understand that the food control officers are not always aware of the flexibility principles. Thus, combining these two aspects, we can really enhance, because we can use the food control officer prepared to apply the flexibility principle more widely at the short food supply chain. And so to come to the 2.6 is the lack of knowledge of short food supply chains by gathering ad hoc education and training. Lastly, whatever we want to implement, we need to understand what is known and what is not known, what is making the actors aware of what is available or what is not available yet, or what we can improve. So we are suggesting the implementation of ad hoc training material and short food supply chains focused knowledge transfer could improve the short food supply chains efficiency. The key points is promoting tailored training for short food chains trainers. We need to have the trainers well trained to spread the information among the small producers. That is also creating specific training materials for the short food supply chain. Why we are coming to these conclusions with the justification, because the short food supply chain sector encounter obstacles in finding clear and punctual information and implementing the knowledge they acquired. So increasing the knowledge of the farmers and small food processors about topics like food safety, traceability, innovation is pivotal. The existing training initiatives are often not tailored for the short food supply chains, and the information that they provide are not so useful to overcome these issues, not forgetting the peculiarity of the short food supply chain sector. The European Commission, the member states, shall promote a tailored training of the trainers for short food chains. Considering that this need is also present in the Horizon Bureau call, develop an EU advising network on consumer producer chains, and that is the call Horizon CL6 2021 Governance 0125. Trainers must be informed and should receive specific training in order to provide a more tailored knowledge, and we welcome this call that is just coming out. Practical example of implementation of both legal requirements and innovation should be provided by the trainers. Seeing this fact emerged clearly from the project. Stakeholders often have easy access to information, but they find difficult to implement it and need to be transferred to the final user, that is the producer. Online platforms are also a valuable solution to collect all the relevant information, policy regarding short food supply chains, guidelines, opportunities for getting funds, bureaucracy explanations. That could be useful for the small farmers. From the questionnaire executed in the work package 1, the case studies reported the difficulty for finding the information legislations, which one should be implemented. So having a single platform in which the short food supply chain sector can find all specific policy information related to the short food supply chains would be really helpful. Even implementing the innovation platform or Smartchain that will last for a long time could help, because it is already an established structure and we should keep it probably forever. Within the Smartchain project, the lack of knowledge has been indicated as a severe issue. as in particular confirmed in the deliverable 1.6. The lack of knowledge regards different topics like labeling, nutrition claims, which need specific expertise to be implemented. For other topics like waste management, recycling, food wasting, traceability, authenticity, food transparencies, short food supply chain sectors complain about the difficulties in getting punctual information. Also in work package 2, we have identified bottlenecks, the lack of knowledge and experience with obstacles in implementing innovations. According to the case studies that we have in the projects and the focus groups we have organized throughout the work package 7, the short food supply chains do not seem to have dedicated specific education and training programs tailored for them. Training material is often designed for the food industry sectors, but in the case of the short food supply chains, the needs are different since their small size. The Smartchain e-learning course is a good example that we manage in the project about what the short food supply actors' interests are and on which type of training is required. And I compliment the group that prepared the e-learning course. The rural development program as a priority, fostering knowledge transfer and innovation in agriculture. The CAP post-2020 promote by the key objectives increasing competitiveness is crucial. So the efficient advisory systems and continuous training for farm managers will be really a key point to help the short food supply chains. And the fundamental role of knowledge is recognized since it can provide economic resilience and must be promoted. So I come to the conclusions in summary of the policies that we have draw as a potential recommendation is that the creation of a punctual specific definition of short food supply chain, better articulation of the role and definition of the intermediaries to ensure the sustainable and transparent food chains, the supporting the cooperation, the aggregation among small producers to extend opportunities and overcome bottlenecks and obstacles, reducing the environmental impacts of short food supply chains by the concentration of the supply, achieving compliance to the legal requirements of food hygiene and food safety to the feasibility principle, and overcome the lack of knowledge of short food supply chains by gathering ad hoc education and training. And with this, I end my presentation. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Silvana, for your excellent presentation. Very important and relevant findings. Great job. I also want to thank the other people involved in these very important activities within the Smartchain project. You know, concerning the chat, there are now open questions until now. But I want to ask Natalia and Ivana if they have some questions. Maybe I can also mention that we already discussed during, you know, this policy recommendation meetings and discussions that, you know, the Smartchain is not at the official end at the moment. We still have some more time to finalize things. And we already thought about organizing a workshop with people from the Commission by end of September to, you know, to present the final results and also to discuss, you know, the policy recommendations and the roadmap of Smartchain. What do you think about it?
You're not asking to me, right? Because we all agree.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're asking to me, I perfectly agree. I think that we should have enough time to discuss and interact. This was just a brief summary of the work done in the past 2 years, but definitely I think that dedicated workshops, and I can tell you that already other partners in the project gave their availability, and I think that we really probably will need a couple of hours to by the end of August, we will will have much more details in the final deliverable, sorry, but definitely I think that a dedicated workshop on this is crucial because we need to move on. We got so many good inputs from the, good output from the project that became a perfect input list for the policy recommendation. We definitely should go forward and have all the time to discuss this.
Yeah, so thank you, Silvana. So we will meet internally, and also we will contact people from the European Commission and then organize a specific workshop on this topic. Okay, thanks, Silvana. Yeah, and thank you for speeding up a little bit.
Well, I did my best, you know, when it's not your own language, you do your best. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Ivana, do you have a question or comment?
Not specifically. I've very much enjoyed the presentations. All of them were very interesting and focused on the key aspects of the project implementation and results. Concerning the idea to have a dedicated event on policy recommendations and key results, as you know, we organize in the framework of the project review a policy session dedicated to those specific aspects. But maybe it is worth, we will see also what Natalia thinks. It is worth to have a separated meeting to discuss it even more thoroughly, and this would make the final review a bit lighter. But the conclusions and the outcome of this ad hoc meeting would definitely also be an input for the external reviewers to have a more in-depth assessment of the policy conclusions and recommendations. So keep us posted. We can definitely support and see with Natalia how and when before the final review.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we are coming now to the last presentation about impact and roadmap. Louise, please,
yes.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will share my screen. Can you give me the permission?
I have it 1 second.
Yes, I can, I think.
You have it already, Louise?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Great.
Okay, so hello again, everybody. My name is Luis Meoden from Inio Gestiona Ambiental in Spain. During this 15-minute presentation, I would like to give you an overview of the long-term impact roadmap we have been elaborating within task 9.4 of innovation management and impact assessment. Please take into account that this is still a work in progress. The final version will be ready by the end of August. So I invite you to have a look at the final document for further detail. A brief summary of our methodology. The roadmap is part of task 9.4 and of our final report on project impact assessment. In this task, we have used a complementary methodological toolset composed of questionnaires. So, for example, we received 256 responses to our questionnaire about positive and negative driving forces of short food supply chains, and the feedback of 212 external stakeholders about project impact, but also focus groups. We hold one in Switzerland and one in the Netherlands about driving forces, and the 7 focus groups about policy recommendations organized by the University of Torino. We led in-depth interviews with experts, both from inside and outside of the project, more than 15 people, and literature review. I wanted to start this presentation commenting some facts that we consider are key in the context of this project and roadmap. First, the very high concentration of food processing, distribution, and retailing that characterizes the agri-food sector. The concentration ratio at retail stage, for example, is reaching 80% in some member states, and in food processing, The top 3 processing firms have a market share about 50% in several subsectors. So this has a consequence a limited capacity to bargain and make choices for producers as well as for consumers. It's quite commonly acknowledged that the current agri-food system is unsustainable from an environmental as well as socioeconomic point of view. And in this context, there is a need of producers for more economic and social recognition and empowerment, and consumers are increasingly concerned about ethical, social, health, and environmental issues. It's also important to highlight that already more than 15% of EU farms sell more than half of production directly, and that these farms are mainly small and organic ones. But they represent only 2% of the fresh food market at the EU level. Finally, there are huge disparities and diversity between EU countries regarding short food supply chains in terms of cultural background, economic importance, practices, regulations, and so on. Given this, short food supply chains appear as a key driver in the transition towards a more sustainable agri-food system. However, there are still a lot of factors hindering their development, and their benefits for individuals, society, and environment actually only occur under certain conditions. So our aim with the roadmap is to look for the most relevant solutions to tackle these barriers and to identify and promote the conditions under which short food supply chains actually act as a lever for change. The roadmap is structured as follows. Based on project outputs, the main problems and needs of short food supply chains are identified, and for each one of them, some recommendations were elaborated. Recommendations for practitioners as well as for policymakers, which were presented by Silvana. The objective of the roadmap is to make them as concrete and ready for use as possible, putting these recommendations into perspective with current key regulations, policies, and strategies at EU level. And identifying the most relevant policy instrument in each case. We also look at some best practices to get inspiration from some more or less singular initiatives at national and regional level. So in order to get a better overview of the main driving forces of short food supply chains, we elaborated an overall SWOT analysis. So I can say that the main strengths are related to the already existing critical mass of determined actors and to the huge power that have the proximate social relationships created and cultivated in short food supply chains between the different actors of the value chain. Their main weaknesses are linked to the fragmentation of the sector, the lack of coordination, cooperation, and political union, that would be necessary to boost their development, optimize their logistics, and so on. In terms of opportunities, we believe that short food supply chains are actually in a political and strategical momentum, and they have already taken some big steps forward during the COVID crisis, showing that they are an important piece in the puzzle of the sustainability transition. Still, yes, the regulatory and socioeconomic context isn't still very short food supply chain friendly, let's say. There are still a niche market that has to evolve in an environment of rules, infrastructures that are still out of step regarding the characteristics and needs. So what are the main barriers and needs of short food supply chains? The four most important hindering factors highlighted in the results of our questionnaire are the difficulty to compete with conventional big distribution, the lack of supporting regulatory tools, the lack of time of producers to dedicate to sales, and the lack of consumer awareness. We finally summarized the main obstacles in this list. So the lack of definition of short food supply chains, already mentioned by Silvana also, which is a transversal issue, the lack of knowledge and data, the lack of capacity and resources of producers, the limited bargaining power of producers, the unsuitable food health and safety standards, the unsuitable processing infrastructures, the limited access to public procurement, the inefficiency of logistics, the lack of affordability and accessibility, and the lack of consumer awareness and capacity to make informed choice. To each problem corresponds a series of needs that are the need for a legal criteria and categories to differentiate and protect short food supply chains, which is actually a transversal issue, as I said, the need for harmonized data collection at EU level, for improved knowledge and innovation transfer, especially in terms of business models, consumer demand, cooperation modes, etc. For support for new initiatives, for marketing, sales and communication, and for cooperation and networking initiatives, and for increased access to funds. In relation to the bargaining power of producers, there's a need for an increased protection of primary producers and for support of the most empowering cooperation and association modalities. In food health and safety area, there is a need for an increased application of flexibility measures, for proportionate and less invasive quality control procedures, and support to fulfill health and safety requirements. Need for local processing infrastructure adapted to small productions. In public procurement, a need for increased mandatory green and social criteria, and for strategic territorial food planning involving local producers. In logistics, a need for support of cooperation initiatives and for infrastructures and services. A need of differentiated tax systems that better internalize products' externalities, and for sales infrastructure and services that help producers to directly sell their products. And finally, a need for promotion of short food supply chains and for an increased transparency and consumer empowerment. So as I said in the beginning, the aim of the roadmap is to make this as concrete as possible, putting the recommendations into perspective with existing regulation and strategies, and determining the potentially most suitable policy instruments to implement them. So we identified these key regulations and policies in this non-exhaustive list. So of course, the Farm to Fork strategy, the Food 2030, the Next Generation Recovery Plan, the CAP and the Rural Development Policy, the so-called hygiene package, the Directive on Unfair Trading Practices, the Public Procurement Rules, the Trade Rules, and the Urban Food Policy Pact. And a series of policy instruments that will be recommended for each policy proposition on the basis of the analysis of the current regulatory and political framework, and according to a principle of efficiency, aiming at the practical and simple implementation and avoiding as much as possible burdensome processes. So to illustrate that, a couple of examples. First, the definition issue. As it was presented by the University of Torino, Smartchain introduces new concepts with respect to the existing legal definitions in a more inclusive and working definition. Concepts such as social proximity, transparency, interconnection between farmers, fair prices for farmers and consumers, and environmental and economical sustainability. The point is that there is a big confusion about the signification and interpretation of the term short. What we propose here is to establish a series of criteria of differentiation in order to distinguish short food supply chains from other types of chains. And also within the short food supply chain category, criteria of categorization to distinguish between the different types of short food supply chains. a criteria of differentiation. As criteria of differentiation, we identified 5 different factors. The geographical distance or locality, which can be quantified in kilometers or transport duration. The social proximity, measured in terms of number of intermediaries. The fairness, which can be quantified with the proportion of consumer price captured by the primary producer. The size, measured in tons of product, for example, and the environmental sustainability, defined with a carbon footprint analysis, for example. Then we can also classify the short food supply chains according to complementary criteria, such as the organizational structure, so individual versus collective initiatives, family farms, and so on. The type of production method, organic versus non-organic, the level of integration of the chain, the type of commercialization channels, virtual, physical, on-farm, off-farm. So the important point is that these criteria should be defined and used in a modular way. According to the policy measure it is aiming to address. This is why we call it a transversal issue. So according to the political goal, the criteria and combination of criteria may vary. Geographical distance can be used to foster local and circular economies, social proximity to empower producers and foster community integration, the volumes of product to differentiate small producers in funding or tenders, or support them through taxing system, for example. Regarding the social proximity, here also, as Silvana said, the definition of intermediary is also a key aspect. More than the number, the issue is rather their role. They can be food hubs, processors, value adders, service providers, cooperatives, retailers, and so on. So some are indispensable and contribute to the social, economic, or environmental sustainability of short food supply chains, but others don't. So here we have to pay attention to how we define and count value chain actors as intermediaries. The proposal for a legislative framework for sustainable food system foreseen to 2023 within the Farm to Fork strategy could be a good framework to establish all these criteria, for example. And another example, the food health and safety issues and the need of short food supply chains for more flexibility in the requirements and control procedures that were designed for the big agri-food industry and are usually very difficult to fulfill by small producers and direct sellers. So the main recommendations to solve this problem here are to establish guidelines for member states about flexibility measures. We see here the importance of the criteria of definition, and that could be done through communication from the Commission. To provide specific training on flexibility measures to national authorities, to provide specific training and advisory services also to short food supply chains actors to inform them about flexibility measures and conditions, and to financially support them in the fulfillment of health and safety measures through rural development programs, for example. Here, the relevant regulation is composed of the so-called hygiene package and the Commission notice about the implementation of food safety management systems, including the facilitation and flexibility of the implementation in certain food businesses. As far as the training aspect are concerned, as well as the financial support to fulfill food safety and hygiene requirements, they could be carried out through rural development tools, providing guidelines for the design of the national programs and for their evaluation with indicators, for example. So that was it, a quick and quite superficial overview of what will be our roadmap for long-term impact of the project. We are, of course, looking forward to a discussion with the Commission on this topic also. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Louise, for your very impressive presentation. Also, excellent results. And also my big thanks to all people who contributed to these findings. And yeah, so we are looking forward for our next meeting with the Commission to further discuss the latest results of the project. Are there any comments or questions right now? If it's not the case, I'll make it very short. I think everybody is a bit hungry now. It's lunchtime. I want to thank everybody. And it was a great, morning today. And, it shows all the spirit, all the activities, all the engagement in the project. I'm very happy to work with you. And I'm also happy that we still have some more days for finalizing Smartchain. So we will stay in touch in the frame of Smartchain. We are already working on some new projects, new proposals, etc. And it's a pleasure to meet you again and again. So stay healthy and all the best until our next meeting. Bye-bye.